recently we had talked about how Lockhart was once again spotted. It was a funny typo because it was Lockhart, but it was spotted in the recently XDK. It's of course the OS provided to developers to create their games for the Xbox platform, which is going to be interesting going into the next generation because we expect a system that, while we'll be running, we assume, on the same architecture, RDNA 2, SSD, all of that, it will also be a fair bit weaker than the Xbox Series X overall. It'll probably, I would say, for the Xbox One X overall, but it won't be limited with the terrible CPU in the Xbox One X, and of course the slow mechanical hard drive. And this, of course, is Lockhart, which is going to be, we assume, the cheaper sub 300, maybe 300 even, dollar system that will be closer to the Impulse territory for buying. Now, of course, we saw it was once again shown in the June XDK, and after that, it appears that Tom Warren at The Verge got more information on this system. We're going to go over that. And I wanted to also talk briefly about Microsoft putting out their information for the optimized for Xbox Series X and some of the plans that they have going forward to try to communicate this whole thing that they have going forward, which appears to be I would say, a larger family of systems, and trying to communicate that and what we can expect from even some of the games we own now on their next-gen platform. If you guys enjoy the video, though, make sure you like it on the way out. It helps a lot. And subscribe down below if you want to keep up to date on all the next-gen news, especially as we head into July with Microsoft's, I would say, sizable event with some pretty cool games. Anyway, let's go over here. This is TheVerge.com, their article they posted up. I will link it down below as well if you'd like to look through it. Says the leaked document also mentions a Lockhart profiling mode. Sources familiar with Microsoft Xbox plans tell The Verge that this special Lockhart mode is part of the Xbox Series X developer kit. The dev kit, codenamed Dante, allows game developers to enable a special Lockhart mode that has a profile of the performance that Microsoft wants to hit with this second console. It is really funny to think about a lot of these code names, whether it's Anaconda or Lockhart or Dante. And you can even see they even put a little anaconda, it seems, little snake on the Series X board, which I want to see that in person, of course, when we open it up. I liked the Xbox One X, which had a Master Chief riding a scorpion. That was pretty cool, right? With that on there. I like those Easter eggs, Microsoft. So make sure you keep that up, since it's mostly going to be people like me who see the thing anyway, for that Easter egg. Anyway, it says, we understand that includes 7.5 gigabytes of usable RAM, a slightly underclocked CPU speed, and around 4 teraflops of GPU performance. The Xbox Series X includes 13.5 gigabytes of usable RAM and targets 12 teraflops of GPU performance. So that would mean, and this is interesting, because that would mean that the Xbox Series X appears to have 2.5 gigabytes of RAM dedicated to the OS. I believe on the original Xbox One that had 8 gigabytes, they had 3 gigabytes dedicated to the OS. And then the Xbox One X has 3 gigabytes as well dedicated to it. So if we look at this 7.5 gigabytes of usable RAM, if we say it's the same as the Series X, just to match the OS overall across both platforms there, that means that they would have, what, 10 gigabytes of, I assume, GDDR6 RAM? That is an interesting amount to drop in there. You figure they might have gone with like 12 or something, but they probably don't need as much RAM because this would, of course, be targeting more 1080p or even 1440p, but the reason I thought 12 is because they would maybe get it closer to the Xbox One X, which does have 12, and 3 for the OS, and then 9 for the games. This will have 7.5 gigabytes of usable RAM for the games, so yeah, that would be a bit less than even the Xbox One X here, but it won't be limited, like I said, by the terrible CPUs, and of course by the SSD. And it looks like the plan here is that the same dev kit will be used between both systems because they are close enough, of course, even though we're talking about 4 teraflops of GPU performance versus 12, even a little bit more than 12 based on some of the math that's been going around for that. It still will scale because it's pretty much the same in terms of the overall RDNA 2 architecture and probably the exact same CPUs. It just appears that Lockhart will be clocked slightly lower. It probably won't need a faster CPU because it won't have a bottleneck to exist there with 1440p or even 1080p if it's
not a dish. You're a man. Most name brand bars and body washes you rub on your skin are classified by the FDA as
synthetic detergents.
It's not even real soap.
It's not even real soap.
Stop marinating your man meat with unholy ingredients that are harmful to your well-being, body, and sperm.
Of course, clocked lower, that also means that they might be able to fashion a smaller heatsink overall, and of course, make a smaller system, which is what I would want. Like, if I was going to get a weaker system, I don't want it to be a tower. I think it'd be really cool if it was a cube, like I said, like the GameCube. They could even maybe flatten it out and make it look closer to the Xbox One X. Mostly because I assume the RDNA 2 architecture and the Zen 2 CPUs, while they do get hot, if this is just 4 teraflops straight up with a CPU attached, it probably will be easier to cool overall and maybe have a smaller footprint like that Xbox One X. Wouldn't mind it. So for developers, what will happen here is that profile mode that's been updated will basically change up Dante, that dev kit, so that they can pass their certification checks to make sure that their performance is within the threshold that they are looking for, right? Whether it's frame rate or resolution, holding steady, those kind of things. And of course, there can be some bugs and things that happen and pop up as you change CPU speeds and all of that. And of course, go from a 12 teraflop up to a 4 teraflop machine. You never know. Of course, there's a lot of bugs in the first place between cross-platforms like that. With those kind of differences can still bring up some problems, but not a bad idea to kind of tackle that here. And I do expect the Xbox Lockhart to be announced probably in the coming weeks, since we're actually seeing it added and people are spotting it in the XDK, seemingly getting developers ready to go for it. Next up, I wanted to go over the optimized for Series X badging that Microsoft appears to be using. This is just marketing, of course, but they want to be able to communicate the abilities, I would say, of the Series X to the general public, and even badge certain games, it appears, that will have full-on optimizations for the Xbox Series X. It even says embrace the full power of the console with games optimized for Xbox Series X. And once again, the idea here, as they say, brand new games built natively for the Xbox Series X, such as Halo Infinite, and then previously released titles in which a developer has enhanced their title using the Xbox Series X development environment to dramatically leverage the power and features Xbox Series X has to offer, like Gears 5. And I like the idea of developers going back. It's probably going to mostly be first-party developers, so like Microsoft Studios going back to update some of the games, right? Now, I do think some third parties will, because let's face it, when we get the Series X, a lot of us are going to just jump around the games to see how load times have improved, for example, or how maybe ray tracing's been implemented, or frame rates gone up, or it's just more steady across the board. That's something we will do. We'll just jump around the games, right? And Microsoft doesn't mind that, because that's really one of the big things about Game Pass is you have a vast selection of games, and you probably will be doing some jumping around anyway. But they did give us a couple of things we can expect, whether it's frame rates, which I really like Microsoft's recent emphasis on frame rates, right? Like they talked about even 120 frames. I mean, I could see that with some of these older Xbox One games when this system comes out. Like, maybe like, think of like Rise. What if they went back and they had a higher resolution mode and they had a better frame rate mode? As an example, for a Xbox title, maybe even more recent titles as well, you can go back to and see a watch 60 or maybe just 120 frames. That is exciting. I like that. Now, of course, faster load times, and something you can optimize for there is to outright just remove load screens, maybe. Let's think about this. If you go through a game now that expects to have loading time, there is a loading screen that has to come up, and that still has to have a transition to it, and then a transition out. Even if it's fairly quick, it could be a lot better if they eliminate that and it just instantly loads, right? That would be something that could be optimized for the Series X. I don't think
Alright, just
like,
trying to straighten up in here a little bit.
Elevator
Fucking
sequences
starting to walk over and step on every goddamn thing in this bitch.
But if there is ever a time where a loading screen would pop up and we have to wait for a bar to fill, that could just be probably cut out. That might be something that they would go back and do. But here is at least a setup here to get us started for games that will be Xbox Series X optimized seemingly at launch. So these are ones we can expect. Of course, Assassin's Creed Valhalla, no surprise there. Bright Memory Infinite, Call of the Sea, Chivalry 2, Chorus, Cyberpunk 2077. Nothing too
crazy that really jumps out to me. I'm really hoping to see something a bit older, but these are all games that we've pretty much come to expect that would be available from the Series X with these optimizations on launch or close to launch. I think the thing I'm most excited about, or at least interested in, is if Microsoft will go back and do anything with older backwards compatible games. We've seen a little bit already, right? With Final Fantasy XIII as an example when it comes to that game looking significantly better, or Knights of the Old Republic, a game from the original Xbox, looking and running tremendously well on the Xbox One X. I would love to see them go back and get an older game like, remember Black on the original Xbox? It was a first-person shooter, but even at the time, it looked really, really good. Just something like that. What can they do with that game, right? Or even like the original Fable, bring that up and maybe dress it up. And like there are some cool things they could do with original Xbox or even Xbox 360 games as well. So that's what I would like to see. Have those optimized for the Xbox Series X. But let me know what you guys think about this down below. It doesn't seem like we're too far off from the Xbox Lock Hard or the Xbox Series S being unveiled as we're getting more and more information leaked out, this time by Verge and Tom Warren. And then what do you think about the optimized for Xbox Series X? Let me ask you this, what do you think the first backwards compatible game from the Xbox One, from the Xbox 360 or the original Xbox, which one would you like to see done first for all the features that the Series X can offer, whether it's high frame rates, super high resolution like a 4K, maybe even 8K game, and of course ray tracing and all of that backflow time. Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.
Say with Liberty Mutual, take 96.
Liberty bibbity.
Cut!
Libbity bibbity.
Diving in?
I do not. I'm here to talk to callers.
Let's dive. David in Ridgewood, how are you?
I'm doing very well. I'm glad I got nothing. Can you guys hear me?
We can.
Hi, Danny.
Okay. I'll tell you first, I am a Christian, but I do like to read the arguments from atheists. And, I certainly like to read, Christopher Hitchens and things like that. I had a couple questions for you guys.
Okay.
First of all, have you guys made up your mind that there's no God, or are you still open to that possibility?
Well, I guess it depends on the definition of God, but by and large, I would not assert that there are absolutely no gods under all conditions and stuff. I think there are some gods that are, we can exclude because they're logically contradictory with reality, but I'm a skeptic, so I'm open to believing anything, provided there's evidence for it.
Okay, so you'd still be open to the idea that the universe was created by a god, a deity, whatever that means, I guess.
Yeah, it depends on what that means.
Yeah, depending on how grumpy I am at that particular moment, I might say, to anybody trying to convince me of a god, shut the F up and leave me alone. I've heard it a million times and not yet been convinced. But, when push comes to shove, yeah, okay, fine. The possibility remains as slim as it may look based on decades of arguments and none of them holding any water.
Yeah, there's a small problem, and I'll stop after this so you can get to whatever you want to say, but there's a problem that I discussed on last week's show and at the North Texas Student Conference where there's a difference between a phenomenon and the cause for the phenomenon. So I don't know how you could possibly demonstrate rationally a supernatural cause for some observed phenomenon. I don't know how you could actually demonstrate that, which is why the people who are claiming to have evidence for the existence of God, it all seems to come up short. and it may forever be stuck coming up short.
Okay, that makes sense. My next question is, as far as what bothers you guys about religion or about religious people, like, but I kind of want to elaborate on what I'm saying. Is it religious faith that bothers you, or is it just religious intolerance? Like, for example, like I understand why, like, Christians criticizing gays or telling people that they're going to go to hell, like, it's that bothers, like I don't understand that bothering you, but it's like the fact that some people have faith and they go to church, does that bother you guys? Or?
Yes.
That bothers me. What troubles me the most about religion is just the noise that it injects into every other aspect of life, right? And that noise is coming from people who have faith in things that they can't actually prove, and yet their faith leads them to believe that they are justified in believing that stuff. And you know, once they think that their beliefs are justified, they're gonna talk about it and think it's important and think it's worth sharing and so on. And the result is a bunch of stuff that there's no good reason to believe gets promoted in our culture. And this affects all kinds of things. It interferes with education, it interferes with science, it interferes socially, you know. I mean, the religious intolerance is only one part of it.
Yeah, I object for both the reasons that Jeff just listed and what you said, you know, would be the obvious reasons, but I object to it at a foundational level because of the things that it ends up doing. So this is to me why I said I object to people believing things on faith. If you have good reason to believe something, you don't need faith. And faith is not a path, a reliable path to truth or correct understanding. Faith is indistinguishable from gullibility. You could believe anything on faith. And so we need some way to distill whether or not our beliefs are true, and that's why I object to faith.
Well, you know, that all sounds like it makes sense, but I mean, it's like, I'm sure you know plenty of people that, you know, they don't go out judging people and, you know, they believe in God and they kind of keep it private. I mean, do you think there's something wrong with that, or, like, I mean,
I think they're better. Well, I don't see, this is the thing.
I mean, that's just a matter of greed. I mean, is one gram
Good morning, guys. Good morning.
amount of poison that's not enough to kill you or even necessarily, you know, harm you, does that make it okay? Well, no, really, it's a bad. If it's a unsafe thing, you probably want to stay away from it. And so we wind up playing this game where, sufficiently non-pushy, sufficiently private religion, that's supposed to be okay. Well, if the basic approach to knowledge, represented by taking things on faith, is a bad idea, then yeah, there are instances of people that do that and take it to the point where it's overtly harmful. And there's people who don't, but it's still a bad idea. Get what I'm saying?
Okay. The other thing I wanted to, I know a lot of the reasons why I believe I have had good conversations with people that are into science and who don't believe in God, but I know that they would say that it was an argument from ignorance, but I don't know how to phrase this question, but is at least
So this shit is getting really, really weird now. It's like, I'm on Facebook. I've been on Facebook for about an hour or so. So, goddamn, somebody posted an article. I didn't read it. Some of these shits I don't read because I don't even intend on reposting it because it's kind of superficial. So, somebody posted what seemed like an article. The headline says, the actor, his name, whatever it was, will no longer play the voice of Cleveland on Family Guy because it's a white guy who plays the black guy's voice. And he's like, you know what? I don't think I want to do this no more. So I'm not gonna be the character. And it's like, really? You've been the character for fucking years. What happened all of a sudden? You feel a little bit racist? Does it feel a little bit like blackface? And then I'm just scrolling through Facebook now. Now this is on, and see, this is why I don't repost a lot of this shit, because I can't fucking fact check all these news sites and see if this is like legitimate news. COS consequenceofsound.net. And this is so on their website. Not sure what how legit this shit is, but it has an article on here, and it has a picture of the Simpsons, or some of the Simpsons characters. The guy who plays the voice of Cleveland on Family Guy. Cleveland's the black character, the only black character, well, him and his family on Family Guy. But little did I know, it's a white man who plays the voice of Cleveland. And now he's saying he doesn't want to do the role anymore, and he's not going to be Cleveland anymore. And now I just came across this article. The Simpsons will no longer have white actors voice characters of color. White actors had played recurring characters such as Apu, Dr. Hibbert, Carl Carson, and Officer Lou. Yeah, I didn't know. Who gives a fuck? It's a voice for a cartoon. I mean, could you? This is okay. And now this is one of those things that may be more cultural than genetics. I say I don't know, because honestly, sometimes on the phone I get mistaken for a white man. I don't get what it is, but for some reason on a larger scale, you can tell the difference in octaves and vocal tone of an African American compared to a white American. It's just something in our voices, and you can hear it slightly. Even if you're both from the same state, region, area, neighborhood, there's a something in the way we sound. Now, could these studios and TV networks hire actors of color to play the voices, and I can just talk natural and sound like a black guy, and then that would translate more into the character itself? I don't know. But it's acting. You're acting. And then it's not even you that the viewer or the audience is seeing and appreciating. It's an animation. And you're acting out the voice for a character that's not even a real person. I don't find any confliction. That's just like the voice actor for Bart Simpson is a female. The voice actor for goddamn Huey on the Boondocks is a female. And so now what? So white actors can't do black cartoon characters, and now female actors can't do boy cartoon characters? Is that gonna be the next step? I don't know, man. I don't get it. They avoiding that preemptive strike. They don't want to get canceled for nothing. See, I voluntarily backed out of the role once I became aware of my white privilege and systematic racism. I gracefully stepped down from the platform to show solidarity with the Black Lives Matter movement and African Americans in America in general, and Africans of the world as a whole, because I am not racist. And you can see this in a real action that I took. I get it. So everybody's like, in Neo, they see them bullets coming, motherfuckers dodging bullets left and right, yo, like, oh, fuck all that shit, yo. Give me my reparations. I don't give a fuck what you name your goddamn syrup. I don't give a fuck what kind of clubs you want to exclude motherfuckers from. I don't give a damn who plays Kermit the Frog's voice. I don't give a fuck about that shit. Give me some motherfucking reparations. Well, how would that, if that's, y'all just gave damn near the whole country motherfucking stimulus checks in the mail. Do that shit again with more money for a smaller group of the population. That's all it is. Divvy out them checks, man. I want 100, no. I want $250,000. Just give me, I'm gonna say 100,000. That ain't enough. I want more than $250,000. I want $375,000. That's all. That's not even a lot of money. That's not a lot of money. Yo, African Americans only make up 12 to 15% of the population, or what would be classified as African Americans, and then you would have to take months or a year-long process to go through the application and be able to verify that you are a descendant of a prisoner who was kept in bondage in this country. And if we can show blood lineage that traces you back to an African slave, $375. Man, if you got 6, 7 people in your family, what? You got 6 people live in your house. And everybody, all y'all come from the same plantation. All y'all got the same grandma, came from the same plantation. That's 300. I can't even do the math. If you got 6 people in the house, what's 375,000 times 6? That's $2,250,000. Now, if you can't pull yourself up by your own bootstraps with a check like that, then I really don't know what to tell you. Now you got an economic platform that you are able to build generational wealth. You got the platform. Now, in 65 years, 100 years after reparation, 150 years after reparation, if the nigga's still doing bad, I don't know what to tell y'all. Because if they give y'all money like that, nigga, y'all better think smart and buy a state. Everybody better move. Yo, Georgia won't even be called Georgia no more. It'll just be Atlanta. Everybody just move to Atlanta and slowly motherfucking just keep expanding that shit. And then once you get out to the nice suburbs and shit, then the white people want to leave because all the niggas moving in. Yo, we can own like the southern East Coast, yo, the good states like North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia. All you gotta do is just move. Everybody just move to them states. Once you get your lump sum, go find you a nice house somewhere in a nice little area. Just keep growing that shit out. Next thing you know, half of Georgia just be Atlanta. Everybody just live in Atlanta. Right. That's what I say. Fuck all the damn. Oh, I'm not gonna play a black character anymore. That shit don't mean shit to me. What the fuck? How is that impacting me on a deeper level? I ain't getting shit out of that. I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck what you, how you make your voice sound, or if you try to sound like a white man, or what. Who gives a damn? Give a fuck about it. That shit ain't changing shit for me, bro. That shit ain't changing shit for me or my kids. And cause my kids gonna have kids, which would be my grandkids, and then hopefully my kids' kids gonna have kids, and I want their ass to be straight. You think cause they changed Aunt Jemima and write Black Lives Matter on the goddamn street that my great grandkids gonna have a better life? That shit don't mean that. This shit gonna go slide right over. You got motherfuckers wearing t-shirts, sorry for slavery, walking around with chains and fucking leashes on their neck. Like, I'm sorry for slavery. I don't give a fuck about that shit, bitch. The fuck is that gonna do? You did that for a photo op? I want an economic platform to build generational wealth. Simple as that. Give me my platform because you owe us for so many years. You owe us. I was sold on stolen land. That's hard to fucking... Can you comprehend that? You were sold on stolen land. I need I gotta write a reparations song, yo. I need some reparations, yo. All this shit, all the marching, y'all burning shit down. I get it. I understand that. That ain't changing shit. Everything that both sides are doing, it ain't pushing no closer to a motherfucking a means to an end. You know what I'm saying? Basically what they doing is just trying to get each other to calm down. Trying to get the cops to calm down with all the killing. Cause we gonna burn the city down if y'all don't stop. And then the white people trying to show solidarity, like, we're gonna do this if you stop burning the city. And ain't not. I don't swear motherfuckers can't figure this shit out, yo. It's a respect thing. It's all about respect, yo. The African American community is the least respected ethnic group in this country by all other races. That's period. We're the least respected. And until that change, ain't shit gonna change. But motherfuckers think because you got Jay-Z and Oprah Winfrey and Morgan Freeman that they respect black people. This is not true. They think because you have that group of people that all black people have that same opportunity to make it to that level. This is not true. But until the niggas learn respect for each other and find a common unity, then this shit ain't gonna change. But we don't understand this shit because we don't have shit to show respect for the most part. You know what I'm saying? Very, very, very few of us have generated any kind of wealth. And then you're part of a elitist group where you don't want to educate and give back the wealth that you've accumulated. You know? So it's this weird cycle that we're in. And until everybody has the opportunity to own something, to appreciate the ownership, then we won't have a common unity. And until we have a community, the other communities won't respect us. See, this country is immigrants, but the immigrants still know their history. They still got their last names, and they still know their history, and that allows them to build communities easy. So all the Latinos and Spanish, they know their history, even though they're not in their native land. They're here, and they still got their last names in their language, and so they can understand their common unity better. And the Irish, and the Russians, and whatever ethnic group comes here, they still have their long history and knowledge and understanding of their origins that gives them a common unity. Now, the African American, being a created person, being denied its long history and its names to associate one to the other and disrupting their common unity, it's so hard for us to get that shit back, yo. When you think about it, it seems almost impossible without just reorganizing and making a new one. And that's what we can't figure out how to do, how to build this shit from scratch in just 100 years, 150 years, and try to build our common unity back from scratch when everyone else still has theirs from 1,000 years ago, 500 years ago. And we're trying to get one from 150 years ago, and the shit is hard and it's a struggle, and we're always like, getting distracted and hurdles, and so much shit is thrown at us that we can't ever focus enough to figure out the internal issues in a way that we can build respect amongst ourselves and then have the other communities respect us as equals. But I say all that to say, just give me my motherfucking reparations, man. That's all I'm trying to tell you to do. Hey, give me my motherfucking reparations, nigga. That's all I want. You know what I'm saying? So the Black Lives Matter and all this shit, man. The new Black Panthers. Is any of that shit really gonna work? Motherfuckers disjointed, yo. Dysfunctional.
The video's logo right here, well, instead of that, you just drop in your own logo. It used to be that if you wanted this level of professional quality, you'd either have to pay a professional editor or buy expensive software and spend weeks. Having to teach yourself how to use it, but not anymore. Videos lets you mix 9 animations that are customized to your video. And all you do is buy a one-time lifetime membership for $67. And then you...
White wealth and other materials have made him a standby on many television and radio shows, as well as important symposiums and conferences on the issues of economic empowerment for the descendants of Africa.
Samuel Adams, it's a okay beer, and you know his story is kind of cool, but do we tear down the pyramids next? So that question would indicate that you are under the assumption that the pyramids were built by white people? Bruh.
Africans in the United States of America and throughout the world. He is, whenever there's an important national convention or convening of people to talk about this subject, I never fail to find him on the program and enjoy him immensely. We welcome now Dr. Claude Anderson.
Thank you very much. And to my colleagues, let me say good afternoon to you and plus the members of the audience. According to John's letter, he indicated to me that he wants me to speak to develop a national plan. And John, that's what I'll try to do for you very quickly.
That's what you think.
Let me preface that by saying that if you hear about reparations, get this very...
So this is what people think, though. What we're going to do, tear down the pyramids next? Yeah, our textbooks really had this on page 10. Like, that's not how it was. You know why everybody in the desert is brown and black now? Because it's fucking hot, man. Ain't no white people out there building no goddamn pyramids in the sun. Nigga, y'all go burn up for... You get melanoma trying to do that shit, yo. Get the fuck out of here. Y'all ain't sun people, man. It's a difference, bro. Y'all the ice people, we're the sun people. Some people can tolerate the sun and some people can't. It's just, it is what it is, you know? When the ice people come into the sun people territory, they gotta like put all kind of protective coatings and salves all over their skin because the sun to fuck them up, yo. The sun fuck up the ice people. So out there in the heat, where the hot gonna hit you, where the ultraviolet rays gonna get you, you gotta be brown at least, at a minimum. At a minimum, you gotta be brown. I already got motherfuckers started on my Facebook this morning, yo. Been posting a few little shits. Wake niggas up. The new Mutants. The TV show? I made a little post, I said, let me make sure I read it exactly how I wrote it. If you have good reasons to believe something, then you don't need faith. See how many people that triggered this morning. All my faithful believers. The race. That's why they canceled season 2 for The Watchmen that was on. Is that on Netflix? Or whatever. So it was a movie adaptation of a old comic book from the 80s or the 90s or something, maybe. The Watchmen. And so they made a movie from the comic book, then they made a TV show from the movie, but then fans of the comic book said the movie barely got it right, and the TV show is nothing like at all similar remotely to the canon writings of this shit. And it's all about, you know, racism and how you know, white people are evil, and you know they're trying to get the Klan to come back, and it's the black woman's job to defeat the white man, and there's some Asian lady with a clock, or I don't know. I did watch all the episodes, and I never read the comic book, so I don't know what the canon sounds like. I saw the movie. I had to watch it twice to realize that the one character was Negan from The Walking Dead. I was like, oh shit, it's fucking Negan. And that shit was a good movie. And then I can even realize that the TV show is like nothing like the movie. I don't know, man. They just canceled everything now. I don't give a fuck, man. That's why I barely watch TV. I'd rather watch some anime. Because the Japanese, they just gonna draw like ambiguous looking characters. They kind of look Asian, but they kind of look European a little bit. And then they just got big boobs and big muscles. And they do all kind of fights and shit. They be in space and big robots and shit. You know what I'm saying? Guns, vampires. Like, fuck everything else, man. I just watch anime now. You know? Ain't got time for all this shit. It's so much bullshit. Give me my reparations. I don't give a fuck about whatever else. All the frivolous, superficial, bait and switch, sleight of hand, smoke and mirrors type shit. I'm tired of that shit. That shit don't affect me no more. I don't give a fuck what you do, who you counsel, what you back out of, what you change the names of. The power structure has not shifted. What's the majority of the people in Congress, in the Senate, on the motherfucking Supreme Court justices? Huh? Who sits? What's the 6 major corporations globally? Who sits on their boards? Then shit ain't changed. I don't give a fuck what you call whatever. Shit ain't changed.
Fixing your mind. You're not here for a parlor discussion. It's not something to talk about that's nice. If you don't get reparations, black folk, you're through in this country. Let me be that very specific for you. You see, what's happening to black Americans is that black Americans have been systematically, socially engineered into the lowest level of a real-life monopoly game. You do not own and control a sufficient amount of anything to be competitive in America. And you've been marginalized now for 400 years. You're getting ready to be buried. You can get buried under at least a whole broad groups of ambiguous groupings. That's everything from culture groups, language groups, and gender groups. You're going down. It's no longer an issue. You better get reparations and get it fast. Now, to get reparations, one of the things I've been trying to do now for 30 years, beginning with the state of Florida, when Governor Rubin Askew put me over education, when they had no blacks in politics in Florida, was to write the first affirmative action plan in the United States, and that was written to be reparations for black folk in 1971. And George Bush Jr., I guess, Jeb Bush just killed it off about 6 months ago. But what's happening now is that what I'm trying to do is create a Harvest Institute that will try to take all my colleagues here and as much as possible trying to give you new points of information that take you outside the box. Part of the problem we got in trying to deal with reparations, a lot of the other racial issues in the country, is that we keep trying to think and find solutions inside the box. There are no solutions inside the box for black folk. You got to get outside and try to find and get a long-term perspective and a long view on it. And that's what the Harvest Institute is in existence for, and that's what they're going to stay in existence for. Now, the reason you cannot win, as I said, is that you've been locked into this low level of a real-life monopoly game. You do not own and control enough of wealth. See, in 1860, for instance, black folk, as a direct result of slavery, had an ownership. when you were 98% slaves, you had an ownership of 1/2 of 1% of this nation's wealth in 1860 on the eve of the Civil War. Now, this is the richest country in the world, the most capitalistic country in the world. And here you are 140 years after slavery when you're supposedly 100% free and you still only have 1/2 of 1% of this nation's wealth. You cannot compete. The typical average white person in America has 3,500 times more money than you have. That's not true only of blacks in America, it's true of the world internationally. What's happening right now is blacks is a marginalized, subordinated class of people all over the earth. You have 1/2 of 1% of the wealth in this nation. The same thing is true all over the world. In the world, there's approximately $392 trillion worth of wealth on the earth. And black folk around in the world have less than 1% ownership of it. That includes all the African countries, that includes Brazil, Caribbean, and America. You don't own enough control of anything. Whites control almost 100% of all the wealth, power, resources, privileges, and controls of all levels of government. You're playing a game you can't win. You got to get reparations. Now, how are you going to get it? Let me run through 3 or 4 things very quickly because I don't want to take up the time here. First thing you must do, I've heard it mentioned already, we gotta commit a national campaign all over this country to start publicizing the issue of reparations for black folk. Not as something nice, but as a necessity, period. That means every living soul, every organization, every court, every institution in this country must begin to start promoting reparations for black folk all over this country. That's level 1. It's a massive promotion of reparations for black folk. Second level, level 2. What we must do at second level 2 now is to start having facts-finding hearings. You must have facts-finding hearings all over this country. And you're going to have facts-finding hearings on at least 2 different levels. One is you're going to go out facts-finding about what roles governments have played in the reparations, in the slavery trade against black folk, and the enslavement of black folk, the marginalization of black folk. And that should break down into 2 levels. One is to investigate all levels of domestic governments, that's city, county, federal, and state governments. And the second group would go out to international. So you should have 2 groups of black folk in this country exploring and fact-finding on what roles government have played, one domestically and one internationally. On the left-hand side, you should be doing the same thing for the domestic side. You should be going after the private sector. You should be going after all the private corporations in the United States, the roles they played and how they benefited directly from slavery. And also, on the same side, you must go after all the international corporations and the roles they played and how they benefited. Now, the Harvest Institute right now, my think tank, we've already picked up one. We put out a press release on that. We're going after domestic role that major corporations played in the United States. We've already identified approximately 240 companies that are still in existence that profiteer directly and enrich themselves off of black folk. We're going after that. And what we have to do in our fact finding is be able to factuate, document a direct line between how blacks have been crippled all the way up to economically, politically, socially, and educationally, and tied into these major corporations or tied into levels of government. That's your level 2. Level 3, you must then start having a national convention in this country. And right now, I think Dorothy Tillman in Chicago has already, we talked about this. She's going to try to call one in Chicago this coming year. We must have everybody who's playing a role, like Congressman Conyers and everybody from the Congress and Cobra, everybody should be at a national convention where we all come in there to not only energize each other, but to share information, see where we are. They're trying to set it up for this coming February, someplace in the United States, possibly Chicago. That's your 3rd level. The 4th level you should start doing is trying to get into, out of this conference should come strategies and plans and a specific role model. You got to have a model that every black can tie into. A model for reparations. Now, my model's a little different from everyone else's, and that's because I'm outside the box. I'm trying to pull everybody else outside if I can get them. Now, most people are going to try to follow the Jewish reparations model or the Japanese model. I'm following the Indian model. The Indians are the most appropriate model if you want to track down, do anything to get reparations for black folk. Why? Because, you see, only American Indians and black folk were spelled out in the Constitution. The Indians own reservations and black folk. There's a direct lineage between those 2 groups. And if you really want to track and get reparations, the easiest and quickest way is to go find out what happened to American Indians, what benefits they got, and track it. In my new book called Power Numbers, it takes you through every one of those steps. You can follow it. If you pick that up, you can come right to reparations very quickly because it would be very difficult for the government to deny black folk the same thing they're giving the Indians. So when you hear people talking about how bad off Indians are, first thing you say, fine, if Indians that bad off, put us as black folk in the same status with the Indians. We'll take that. Because see, right, what Indians got, see, first of all, nobody declared Indians to be a nation. Indians declared themselves to be a nation. They declared themselves to be a nation all the way up to about 1832 when Supreme Court Justice Marshall said, okay, I'll recognize you as a nation. We never declared ourselves to be a nation.
We've always tried to do just the opposite of what the Indians did. Once they became a nation, they drew up a constitution for themselves. We never had a constitution. And what the Indians did with that constitution is then to go to the United States government and say, we do not want to integrate. We did just the opposite. We integrated. And I can track everything right down, or we can follow the Indian model if you want to. And you can see, and all that's already built into the law. There's a direct lineage between American Indians and black folk that you can follow very easily and get to reparations. But we need to have a model. And in my new book, I get that model. If you understand in about another month, you get the Empowernomics model that will take you through all those steps, what they did throughout history, from the Blair Amendments and everything else. You can track them very easily, and it'd be very difficult for the United States government to deny you reparations when you only two people that have a constitutional relationship with this government is black folk and Indians. Just like Indians use what they call natural rights and lay a claim against the land, we should use natural law and lay a claim against our labor, misappropriated labor. The next level what you must do is move to a legal step. You need to form at the fourth level, get you a legal body right now, whether it's going to be pro bono or paid. And out of our convention, we should be able to raise some funds to set up a mass legal body that'll be ready to start serving suits based on those facts that you're going to find at the second level. And we start finding those, then we should have people going after suits. One side suing the different levels of government, other side suing the private sector to get reparation funds for black folk. At the last level, you can set up, at the sixth level, you can set up some kind of a pool or a resource or retrieval agency that every time we get some benefits, we're going to a special fund that will be held for pooling and aggregating. Now, out of that special agency, we break away into two groups, what I would recommend. One, you would have an economic development bank on the East Coast and an economic development bank on the West Coast. And what those banks would do is take most of the money you get and not give it to black folk as individuals. You put it into a massive bank where black folk go draw that money to start low interest, get low interest loans or free money to build businesses and industries throughout the United States. You also, if you track the Indians, you should go try to get yourself some tax-free or tax-exempt land. Just like Indians can go grab any piece of land and federalize and put up a casino, you tell me you're going to do the same thing as a black person, get tax-exempt statuses. We can go on and on. Well, there's a lot of things we can track. Go after the Indians. But the thing that's most important, I'm going to quit, is that you got to understand that reparations are an absolute necessity. We're going to get buried alive. We do not have enough to be able to compete in this society. And the further we get away from the civil rights movement, the worse things are going to get. And when people start talking about slavery, don't just talk about slavery. Talk about Jim Crow slavery and benign neglect. You got to understand what slavery was. Slavery is the illegitimate child of racism. Racism still exists. That's slavery. Because what racism does, racism keeps and maintains what was created by slavery. Now, racism is a competitive economic struggle between groups of people for power and wealth. And it's slavery, and racism never existed until the 16th century. And when slavery went out of existence, racism took over. Racism has gone from being slavery to being something biological. Then it moved on in about the 1800s. It turned to be something as a personal behavior or an attitude, and now bias and a prejudice. Racism has nothing to do with attitudes, with prejudice, and with bias. Racism is a competitive group contest between people for race, resources, and for superiority. And racism is a race without a finish line. I thank you very much.
Whoa. Did y'all digest that? Or did you not? It's a lot. It may take you a couple times to listen to everything he said, to absorb it and hold it. It's a lot of information. Then you gotta go back behind them, like he said, and do more research and understand how this shit works. And then put our own fucking team together. You know what I'm saying? Racism is an extension of slavery because it maintains the system. Throughout slavery, they were able to build the machine, which is generational wealth. That's what motherfuckers don't get this shit. I worked hard to get what I got, and my family, blah, 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 blah. Fuck that. 90% of motherfuckers who are now classified as white whether you're whatever, all those other European nations, because you'll break it down, like on the application, you'll put, white or black or whatever. But then when you talk, you're like, well, my family's Scottish, and I'm Scottish on my mom's side and Polish on my dad's side, and because But now everybody just white. Yeah, they're all just white now. And it's like they don't want them reparations to come out, yo. And all that shit that was built to build the machine. They say racism maintains that shit. And the whole time that they was robbing and plundering, and that's the thing. Now they have privatized so much through capitalism, where you have to purchase land and buy land, and you might be lucky to buy land that actually has, some sort of water on it. That's going to be real expensive. You got like a pond or a river or stream or some shit. Some waterfront property. That's that good shit. That's that good land, where the water at, because you can travel over the water. You can get certain places you can't get to from the land. So and so for hundreds and hundreds of years, they've said, well, we own this land now, and this land is ours, and that land, and this land, and this piece of land, and nobody can own that land, because that land is that's reserves for nature. Because we're taking all the other land, so you guys can't have that land, though. And this land is ours, and those waterways, those are ours. These lakes, these Great Lakes, those belong to us now. It's like, fuck. And then they say, motherfucker, if you don't get some reparations soon, ain't gonna be no more land, because you can't make new land. Well, the Chinese, these motherfuckers make new land. These motherfuckers make everything. How you make new land, goddammit. These motherfuckers crazy. But anyway. And without reparations, soon, another couple generations of this shit, of white people building their wealth, because they already own a house, and they can take out a loan, a mortgage loan, and goddamn start a small business to help their kids get through college, and then their kids see the benefits of home ownership and business ownership, and that's how this shit grows and prospers, yo. Because if you renting or you living in the projects and that's your environment, motherfuckers say, oh, you're not a product of your environment, but to a certain extent you definitely are, Nature versus nurture. So many issues are being exposed. Exposed. So many issues are being exposed due to COVID-19. So many issues are being exposed. So many issues are being exposed due to COVID-19. Somebody writing this down? Yo, write that down. Yo, that's a hit. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna be a songwriter next, yo. All I need What you think? That should be a guy or a girl singing that shit, yo? It'll take a minute. I'll write the rest of that shit real quick, yo. 30 minutes, $30,000 for the lyrics. You want these lyrics, bitch? You about to make all the money. You can give me 30 grand. And it's yours. You can have it. So... Alright. I used a bunch of colors yesterday. I'm gonna need... Yo! So the gym's open back up, right? I went to the gym for the past 2 days. And then... I got there like my normal time, like 5:30, like 5:30ish, 6 o'clock or something like that. Then I went this morning, and it's Saturday. I get it, it's Saturday, but it's Planet Fitness. I guess I didn't read the email completely, but yeah, cause they did send us an email when they were opening back up. That's how I knew I can go, but I got there at like it was 6:20 when I got there. Cause I was kind of debating this morning. I'm not gonna lie, y'all. I woke up, I laid in bed for a minute. I don't know, just hopped straight on Facebook. You know, once you start strolling on Facebook, it's just like, Then I thought about it, and I do have some weights here, cause I was trying to do some shit while the gym was closed. Then I was like, what the fuck did I have there? I don't think I even really had a color there. But I was like, swear to God, y'all. I was like, I might just, cause I just was gonna do some bicep curls, really. You know, there is different equipment there where I can hit like, you know, more precise areas of your arm. But I really thought about it. I was like, I can just do some curls here real quick. Then I was like, nah, stop being lazy. And I got up, got dressed, went down to the gym, parking lot, empty. There's 2 cars. One car is parked and off with a lady sitting in it. And there's another car closer to the front door. And it's a guy, his car is running and his door is open. And he's just sitting in his car though. And that's it. Then I pull up. And he see me pull up. We make eye contact. I hop out here. I was like, yo, they closed? He's like, yeah, they don't open till 7. I'm like, 7? He's like, bro, I've been here since 6 o'clock. And then he got out of his car and started jogging. I was like, man, I'm not gonna. It was like I said, it was like 6:20, 6:25. And I'm like, this motherfucker been sitting here for 25 minutes already. He gonna wait for an hour? He must have, like, where did you come from? I don't live that far. I was like, man, fuck this. I'm going back home. I'm not about to wait here for another fucking 35, 40 minutes for these motherfuckers to open. I'm just go home, do some curls, some push-ups, call it a fucking morning. Oh, I need that. Gonna need that. And now it's raining too? Shit. Oh, maybe I should have cut the grass yesterday. Damn. Now I might have to do that shit tomorrow. I'd rather have it done on the weekend. Because if I don't, man, by next weekend, god damn. I have to do that shit one day after work. And I hate doing that. I'd rather just come home and just relax after work. Not cut grass. Or if I do cut grass, I'd rather for it to be on a Friday. Like the last day of work, make that shit the longest day. Go ahead and cut the grass. I thought about doing that shit yesterday. I ain't gonna lie. Should have did that shit yesterday. But then, man, like last week, some kids walked by pushing a lawnmower. It's like, you need your grass cut? I was like, nah, come by next weekend. I was hoping these motherfuckers would stroll through this bitch, yo. Like, yo, you need your grass cut? Hell yeah. And look, y'all gonna use your mower and my mower to make it faster. I pay you half, nigga. My yard ain't that big, but swear to God, yo, I be looking on Facebook Market, man, and they be having like little old motherfuckers be trying to get rid of their old ride mowers for just a couple bucks, yo. Motherfucker be like, yo, give me like $250 for this shit. I seen a John Deere, yo. It was like, it was an old John Deere, but it's like that shit run good. Everything work on this motherfucker. He said he just wanted a newer one. And he ain't want but like $250 or $300 for that shit. I was like, damn. Should snatch that shit up. Mow my goddamn grass. I gotta get a shed first. I need this. Yeah, I definitely gotta get a shed to put that bitch in. Alright, any more colors I need? I should be able to work with that. And then I had that brush. But I don't want that brush. I want this brush. Oh shit. I forgot I ain't had nothing to eat this morning. I should have had it. Fix a protein shake. Alright, so we're gonna try to work with these colors right here. That's a giant deer. I said John Deere. Damn, I can't believe I forgot to fix my shake this morning. I didn't realize that shit till my stomach started growling just now. Let's talk about these reparations. Let's talk about these reparations. Let's talk about these reparations. Let's talk. Let's talk about these reparations. Let's talk about these reparations. Let's talk about these reparations. Let's talk. Give me my money. This country owed me. They shot Dr. King when he said he was going for his check. Give me my. Let's talk about these reparations. Let's talk about these reparations. Let's talk about these reparations. Let's talk. Let's talk about these reparations. Give me my check. Give me my.
This video is brought to you by NVIDIA and Eno 3D graphics cards. Okay, so I played 5 hours of Cyberpunk. It was fucking awesome. I'm going to tell you all about it. I just want to say this video is going to be pretty chill though. I'm actually moving house tomorrow. I played like 5 hours of Cyberpunk today. It's now like 9 o'clock because I just recorded my layman video. You can see like my whole house is kind of empty now because we're about to move. This video is rushed, but I wanted to get out this video on time just to share my thoughts because Cyberpunk is definitely the real deal. Having played it, I had my doubts given the trailer and how good it looked. They have delivered, so let me show you Cyberpunk, or at least talk about it because it's so good.
Yo, those are the only 2 games I was really thinking about buying this year, yo. I already got The Last of Us Part 2. I don't even know how many hours I put in on that shit. I ain't even been like checking the clock on it. I might actually check it. I might check the hours on it today. I've been playing the hell out that shit, yo. I ain't gonna lie. I already knew that shit. That's what I hate about myself. Cause when a game I know I'm gonna get into comes out, yo, like, bruh, I lose focus on my art, yo. And this is the only thing I keep wondering, you're like, what if I wasn't into video games? Like, I think about other artists who don't have any other hobbies other than art, like how much art they produce and shit, yo. And I'm not sure if, like, if I should try to do that. But that shit is so, I don't know, it is so hard for me not to want to play video games. Like I said, I keep getting older, but that shit don't go away. I don't game as much as I used to, because I know that shit ain't gonna get me shit, yo. Like, playing games ain't gonna get you, not unless you on them pro teams, nigga, and you and your squad making $10,000 and $20,000 checks in a tournament. You know, playing the game, you go to a fucking a 5-hour tournament or a 3 or 4 hour tournament, and at the end of that, Joan, if y'all the best, now I don't blame you, but that, I mean, I ain't getting paid off that shit, so I don't know. It's all about time management. I try to be more aware of time management, and no matter how long I play the game, it's like every few minutes, it's like I could have been painting right now, like, you know, and it's that, I don't know. It's like, how many more pieces of artwork could I complete if I don't play video games? Like, at all. But then I always take into consideration too that I'm not a big TV person. Especially nowadays. Just like, I'm so done with the subliminals, and now, like, all this shit, you gotta cancel this and cancel that, and I already see, like, little hidden jokes and the underlying hiddenness in television in general, in commercials and everything, and it's like, I hate the propaganda so much, yo. I just try not to fucking absorb that shit, yo. It's like your diet. You know, some motherfuckers on the keto diet, you don't eat bread or carbs or whatever, however that shit work. They just certain things in your diet you don't care for. You know, some people are, you know, raw vegans, where they don't eat anything that's fucking, it's not a plant, and it can't be cooked, you know. And then you have regular vegans, and then you have vegetarians, and you know, certain people just don't put certain shit in their fucking bodies, and that's the same thing with your mind too. Like, you have a mental diet, and I try to consume as little programming propaganda as possible. And then, because when I see it, I just sit there and analyze the shit, and I'm not enjoying what I watch most of the time. It's just like, okay, how are they trying to spin this shit? What are they trying to get me to think? And it's like, oh, yeah, okay. And I don't enjoy that shit, man. Honestly, if I watch something, like I say, most of the time, I don't know, it's anime. It's, the Japanese are very, I don't know, they're just unbiased in their fucking, the anime that I like to watch, it's just cool stories with cool characters, and it's just like, you know? And sometimes, like I said, they can over-sexualize women, but I don't even really like the ones like that, yo. Like, the last Joan I really watched all the way through was, oh no, I was going to say Attack on Titan. But then I just watched this other one called No Guns Life. Yo, that shit was crazy, yo. It's this detective, but he got a gun for a head because he's a gun slave. You gotta watch it. No Guns Life. That shit is on Hulu. That Cyberpunk, yo. I said I got fucking Last of Us Part 2. That shit is already destroying my concentration, breaking my focus, and limiting my ability to create masterful works of art, all at the same time fulfilling my enjoyment to play interactive art and media, which contains a deep and moving story filled with rich characters with detailed arcs to their personalities. And so I have this really conflicting emotion about gaming and art, because games is art. It's someone else's art that you can actually play with, but at the same time, while you're playing with somebody else's art, you're neglecting your own art, and it's this fucking conundrum, and it's, oh my god. And I already know, once again, that when Cyberpunk comes out, if that shit is like everybody expects it to be, fuck me. Yo, thinking about just using some vacation time for a staycation. Oh, you're taking some days off? Where are you going? Home. What are you gonna do? Game and paint. I need a couple of days to do this. I can't leave the house for a couple of days. You know, just like a long weekend. Like you know how you take that Friday and then that next Monday off and do that shit right there, you know? I might do that shit coming up sometime soon, yo. Like, let me get the Friday and the Monday off. Do this long weekend. Cause I'm going goddamn. I gotta finish The Last of Us. Then play Cyberpunk. And make beautiful portraits. Man, y'all asking too much. And go to work. Oh my god, dude. Like, wait a minute. Nigga gotta choose a struggle, yo. How much time you say I got vacation time? I do? I have that much? Really? Well, a toodaloo. I'll see you in a couple of days. Oh, and we got it, like, so this is only my second year at the organization, but last year we got an email saying, you know, you can only carry over 15 hours. You can only carry over 15 hours of vacation time from the previous year, starting January 1st. So if you don't, and it's one of those you don't use it, you lose it situations. And so they give you, I think they give you the first, I think you got to use it by February. So you can carry over 15 hours, but you got to use that shit within the first 2 months of the year or something like that. And I wound up carrying over like 8 hours. I went ahead and used my shit out after the New Year's. Motherfuckers just stay home longer after the New Year's if they got a couple hours. And then, but we got an email saying that, oh, due to COVID, you know, at the end of this year, if you wind up having, you know, a substantial amount of paid time off or vacation hours or whatever you want to call it, that you will be able to carry over 75 hours into the new year, and you'll have until I think they said April or something to use them shits up. So that's a good deal. 'Cause I don't be going nowhere. I don't really be doing shit, and we only get like 30 days of vacation time. Or not even really 30 days, almost 30 days. I don't know. Somebody do the math. How much is we get the natives do get reparations, bro. At least fought back. Oh my God.
Start like this. You started off as a slave, then white folks felt bad and decided to free you. Then civil rights legislation made you equal. And finally you achieved victory with Obama's election. The end. Of course that is ridiculous. That is the white supremacist version of black history. The end result of this miseducation is that black children are separated from their own people's legacy and historical achievements. Everybody in the world has the right to draw inspiration from their own people's legacy. And this right is robbed from black children because their history is actively hidden, distorted, and replaced with make-believe. For this video, we will carefully cover the facts on how black people became liberated from American. Black children are separated from their own people's legacy and historical achievements. Everybody in the world has the right to draw inspiration from their own people's legacy. And this right is robbed from black children because their history is actively hidden, distorted, and replaced with make-believe. For this video, we will carefully cover the facts on how black people became liberated from American chattel slavery. The miseducational system has taught us 3 gigantic myths about the freeing of the slaves. The first myth is that there was only some slave rebellions here and there, but not any kind of large-scale military resistance to slavery initiated and carried out by black men. The second myth is that any slaves who wanted freedom basically fled north to be granted freedom. The third myth is that the Civil War was the primary event that ended chattel slavery.
The reality is that there was a series of battles, revolts, and rebellions that lasted from 1739 to 1858. This was the Gullah Wars. That is more than 100 years of warfare totally hidden from the American history books. A lot of this history was disguised as the Seminole Wars. First of all, the Seminoles were not a real Native American tribe. They were Native Americans allied with and often led by black Africans. Seminole literally means runaway. Maroon means fugitive. Gullah refers to the black Africans. The Emancipation Proclamation was a staged event, and it was designed to stop and historically hide the self-liberation process of Africans in America. Africans were brought into the Anglo-American New World Order, and many of these Africans maintained the goal to kill, crush, and destroy white supremacy. 1739, the Gullah War begins. Carolina was about to pass the Security Act, which would require whites to be armed more often to prevent a slave uprising. So the slaves decided that this was the time to strike. About 20 of them went to the local store, stocked up on guns and ammo, killed the shopkeeper, and began the Stono Rebellion. The rebels marched, and as they marched, their following grew larger and larger. They chanted out liberty as they marched, chasing the slave owners, killing them, and burning their houses down. After the rebellion, South Carolina passed the Negro Act, which prevented a future rebellion by limiting the rights of the slaves. From that point in time until 1812, the Gullah were fighting continuous battles against the state militia in Florida. Spain was fighting against the American colonists for land in Florida. The Spanish started arming the Gullah and providing them with military training. The Gullah used this military equipment and training to defend their own free, independent black towns. The first black town in North America was called Garcia Real de Santa Teresa de Mosset. It was built by the black man and officially recognized later by the Spanish Lieutenant General Montillano in 1738. This black town was a place that slaves could escape to have their own land and receive military training. 1814, Andrew Jackson defeated the Native American Creek Confederation. He imposed on them the Treaty of Fort Jackson, which basically stole their land. So Chief Sakafoka led thousands of his warriors to Florida and joined forces with the mighty Gullah Nation. The so-called Indian Wars were actually the Gullah Wars. General Thomas Jessup said, "Throughout my operations, I found the Negroes the most active and determined warriors, and during the conferences with the Indian chief, I ascertained that they exercised an almost controlling influence over them. This, you may be assured, is a Negro and not an Indian war." 1860, the Battle of Negro Fort. Negro Fort was a structure built by the British and occupied and led by black Gullahs. Andrew Jackson ordered Colonel Clinch to destroy Negro Fort. After they destroyed Negro Fort, Andrew Jackson ordered the torture of the leaders and the enslavement of the black captives. This was a historical turning point in Gullah military strategy. The Gullah leaders who escaped decided that they would never again use the British strategy of fighting from a fixed fortified position. They decided instead that they would return to using the traditional Gullah method of guerrilla warfare, which involved striking and vanishing, luring the enemy into strange areas, the forest, the pasture, the swamp. They had the advantage with decentralized warfare because they knew the land better. As more and more slaves fled south for freedom, thousands of U.S. soldiers died at the hands of the superior Gullah warriors. 1818, the Battle of Suwanee. A stretch of towns along the Suwanee River was occupied by a series of self-sufficient Native American and Gullah colonies. Once again, General Andrew Jackson came to terrorize and invade them. The Gullah and the Native American warriors, allied in the swamps, inflicted heavy damage on the invading army. Andrew Jackson was defeated by the Gullahs, however he fraudulently claimed the battle as a victory. After the Gullah warriors and their allies disappeared into the swamps, Andrew Jackson exacted revenge against them by slaughtering a nearby settlement of their women and children. The killing of women and children was the only victory Andrew Jackson achieved in the Battle of Suwanee. This black history was actively hidden. Whenever the word black or Negro or African were mentioned in war reports, the words were simply omitted or replaced with an asterisk. The Gullah Wars were also hidden from the newspapers so they wouldn't scare away potential European settlers. Real American history shows that the black man was destroying the institution of slavery. 1822. The resistance had grown completely out of control of the United States government. In Charleston, South Carolina, almost all the slaves in the area had joined a movement to carry out a massive slave revolt. What white people had not considered is that every time you capture a free Gullah warrior and sell him into slavery, the Gullah warrior will only spread his own knowledge amongst the new slaves he's living with. This rebellion was to be led by Denmark Vesey and his lieutenant Peter Poyas. 9,000 slaves were planning to revolt that day. However, the revolt never actually took place because cowardly black people involved with the movement informed the white colonists of these plans. Everyone involved ended up being executed or sold away to another plantation. 1835, the victory over the King Fort Relief, otherwise known as the Dade Massacre. The reason it was recorded as a massacre instead of a battle was to hide the fact that it was a legitimate military victory for the Black Gullah. Also in 1835, the U.S. Army suffered another defeat at the Withlacoochee River, forcing General Gaines to leave Florida. 1837, Colonel Taylor claimed the Battle of Lake Okeechobee as a victory for the United States. In reality, the Gullah warriors and the Native Americans had already started fleeing the area and spreading the Gullah resistance to other parts of America. The real war that ended slavery was not the Civil War, it was the Gullah Wars. It was Native Americans and black Muslim Gullahs against the white Christian colonists. The so-called Civil War was carried out for elitist banking and business interests, and it also served as a formality, a ceremonial ending to chattel slavery. In reality, slavery ended in America because it couldn't be maintained against the constant guerrilla attacks, and the only way to stop those attacks was to make slavery illegal. The free black man would not tolerate slavery. Therefore, it came to an end.
I say, man, slavery ain't never come to no end. That shit just bait and switch. It's even written in the Constitution, you can still be a fucking slave, yo. So goddamn, you know, did chattel slavery come to an end? Yes. And was there resistance and freedom fighters and guerrilla fighters out there? Hell yeah. So, at least the Indians fought back. Yeah. I think the African American population outnumbers the Indian population. Like, y'all just kill all them motherfuckers off. Y'all can't kill us off like that. And then y'all did the weirdest thing, and now you're trying to reverse it as fast as possible, but it's almost too late, cause you just bred like a bunch of Kobe Bryants and shit. You know what I'm saying? A bunch of Emmitt Smiths and shit. What the fuck are you guys thinking? Oh my god, it's the weirdest fuck. Now we're the beefiest of all the stock. You know what I'm saying? We had the best of the best genes, yo. And now after you let them go, it's like, I think we fucked up. So now it's to the mental slavery. You gotta keep them in the mental bondage. Keep them blind. Keep them in the dark. Because these motherfuckers can see the light. It's like a horse. And I've ridden a horse before, several times. It's a massive animal. You can see other people ride horses and see them in the movies and all this shit. But if you never stood beside a horse and ridden a horse, this beast is massive. And it can fucking kill you. But it doesn't, you train it to think that it can't kill you and that you are more powerful than it is and that you're its master. And so that's what you have to do to the blacks, because these motherfuckers strong as fuck, yo. Gotta keep these motherfuckers in the dark. Don't let them think nothing different. Keep the blinders on them. Keep them blinders on them, because if they ever get organized and come together, it's a wrap, son. Like, oh, you done fucked up now. Put some poison in their food. Don't give them no clean water. You gotta reverse this shit. God damn, these motherfuckers got all the superior genes. Dun dun dun. Dun dun dun. Wow, really? What the heck is going on? Yo, the speaker just acts so weird.
I get to go to conferences and hear about, sounds silly, but this is really, really important, cutting edge genetics. One of the areas, I'm really lucky I'm blessed to work in 3 distinct areas of biology: immunology, genetics, and reproduction. And on the genetic side, I get to go to conferences and hear about advances in genetics in all species. And I was just at one a couple of weeks ago down at the Cold Spring Harbor Lab in Long Island, and I learned a bit about what's being known about the genome of Neanderthals, the genetic makeup of Neanderthals. The genome sequencers, led by Svante Pabo, who works in Germany, has taken tiny little fragments of Neanderthal bones, isolated DNA, and determined the genome of the Neanderthal, and used that information to determine, using genetic methods, how long ago Neanderthals and humans were a single species, where the common ancestor was. And they've also been able to compare human genomes and ask the question of whether there's any evidence of Neanderthal genes in the human genome. And they found that there is. And the amount is quite significant, upwards of 5 to 7%. Neanderthals used to live in the Neander Valley. You could have called it the Cayuga Lake Basin, but that's where they lived. And out of Africa came the modern humans, and the word the geneticist uses admixed. They admixed with the Neanderthals. And they all used to live in caves in those days like this.
The caveman.
Came out of Africa, admixed with the Neanderthals. This was Neanderthal territory. There was another group of Neanderthal-like creatures called the Denisovans. They lived up here in Siberia, and they have their genome has been sequenced. They were distinct from the Neanderthals. And so you can find in people of European and Asian ancestry evidence of about 7%, 5 to 10% of your genome is common with that of Neanderthals. We've been separated from them for 30,000 years or so. And in some of the tribes in Papua New Guinea and those islands out there, there's evidence for a different kind of genome, which is probably the Denisovan genome. And they might have 7% Neanderthal and 5% Denisovan. So they might be 12 or 15% different from us. And in fact, the Africans who came out from Africa have no evidence of any Neanderthal genes in them. No evidence of admixture. So they're the real pure humans. Homo sapiens. Real of any Neanderthal genes in them. No, us. And in fact, the Africans who came out from Africa have no evidence of any Neanderthal genes in them. No evidence of admixture. So they're the real pure humans. Almost us. And in fact, the Africans who came out from Africa have no evidence of any Neanderthal genes in them. No evidence of admixture. So they're the real pure humans. Homo sapiens. Really, really interesting. It gives you a lot to think about.
It does. It really does give you a lot to think about, doesn't it? No, there's only two races, black and everything else. We the father. We the mother and father of all other races, bro. What are you talking about? There's only one race and everything else. The darker your skin is, the closer you are to the original race. The lighter your skin is, the further away you are from the way the original Homo sapiens looked. It's that simple. You don't have the genetic code to turn on your melanin. You can't turn your melanin on. You can't make your skin dark. You're really, really, really far away from the original humans. Really far. You must have a lot of Neanderthal DNA in you. Or even a little bit of that Denisovan DNA, because you can't turn your melanin markers on, and that's weird. You know, the original humans had melanin in their skin. So, it's just one race, bro, you know. But the more you mix and mix and mix with all this other stuff, you just get further and further away. And then you leave the tropical climates, you know. You start eating more meats and less fruits and vegetables, and then shit changes. Shit changes, man. I mean, what do you expect? You know? Only pure humans, yo. I'm not even close enough to qualify as a pure human. You know why? Slavery fucked that shit up for me. God damn it. Had me mixed with all this Neanderthal shit, man. Fuck. I could have been a pure Homo sapien on the motherland, yo. Fuck me over. fucking slave trade motherfuckers done fucked up my genetic history. Now I ain't pure no more. Damn it. It's something interesting to think about, man. Just interesting, bro. They're beasts, they're savages. Really? Who's the beast here? We tried to it's called what is it? It's called elevating a species or something. It's kind of like what they like the Anunnaki story. Oh, Anunnaki found like primitive man and tried to, put some of their DNA or some of their genetics inside of the primitive man to make them smarter enough to, be a worker and so they can communicate and understand them. Us motherfuckers like y'all almost there, but not really. So we gotta like boost y'all up, and so the Anunnaki tell the whole story of Enki and Enlil and how they produced the first humans and all this stuff. And it's kind of I kind of look at it. That's how like the Africans must have like the first like real humans kind of looked at the Neanderthal beings like like you're kind of like us, but not really. But you're really close, though. Maybe, I don't know. Let's try something. Maybe I can help you have some smart kids, yo, because you just need a little bit of work, yo. Just let me see if I can put some of my genes in you and boost you up a little bit and kind of make you more like us. Because you walking upright, and that's good. That's a plus. Look at you. Look how you standing up on your feet. It's nice, isn't it? It's cool. So let's try to work something out. I might be able to do some experiments here and see if we can get a new breed or something out of you, man. Oh, look, I'm gonna call it a European. Oh, my comedy is so bad though. It's terrible. I know it is. I need to work on it. I need to work on my jokes. They're funny to me. That shit's funny as fuck to me. I'm gonna come up with this skit called I'm a Gemini, right? I don't really believe in all that shit, but most people do, so I can just play on that anyway. But like Gemini, conversations with myself or some shit like that. People like Gemini. Oh wow, that's really fucking loud. Don't talk over yourself, Trap. We've been in the U.S. 1,000+ years. Oh, damn.
Some things that are not comfortable for white people. They're not comfortable for them to talk about the possibility that Africans were here before the Europeans. So what do you do with the heads in Mexico that you find at San Lorenzo, at Tres Zapotes? What do you do with those? All right? You ignore them. What do you do with Columbus's diary that says the Africans know a way to the west, but it goes around the doldrums, we would never survive? What do you do with that? You ignore it. What do you do with Balboa's diary that says we came upon this African village in the Isthmus? How did these Africans get here? What do you do with that? You ignore it. Why? To preserve the myth that the Europeans were here first. What do you do with all of this written literature and history that says that Abubakar II of Mali sent 200 ships to the west. One came back and said they were afraid that the others disappeared. And then to have Balboa find this village that looks just like Mali, where he was, what do you do with this information? You ignore it. You ignore it. Why? To preserve the myth of white superiority. That's what our whole educational process is devoted to. What do you do with this whole history? This is a written history, my dear. Written. I'm not talking about hearsay. I'm not talking about a griot said this. I'm not talking about something handed down from one generation to the other through voice. I'm talking about written history of the Egyptians. What do you do with this? You ignore it.
So funny. So funny though. See, you can say whatever you want to say from your historians, but then I can go to my historians and they tell me a different story, yo. How come everybody I listen to say the opposite of what you saying? Huh? I don't get it, man. I don't get it. Everybody I listen to say the opposite of everything you saying. You must be got miseducated or undereducated or something, cause you missing some pieces of the puzzle. You don't know the proper names, the research, events, civilizations, or time periods, or whatever. But bruh, there's no other way for me to say this, but you're wrong. Like, you're just wrong in like all your shit, dude. So wrong. So wrong. But you're learning though, and that's the thing. Like, you're not failing. You're learning. It's not like, oh, I gotta win. No, because you don't lose. It's not like it's either win or lose. No. It's either win or learn. You didn't lose. You just learned something. That's all, bro. And that's what keep people so fearful for like engaging in intellectual exercises against an opponent who's more worthier than they are more versed in the subject than they are. You just keep winning, bro. Well, you just keep learning every time. I keep winning, but you keep learning time and time again. You know, and hopefully one day you'll learn you're a fucking asshole and just get over that shit. And then the world will be a brighter place. That's all it would take. But I'm here for that. I'm going to be with you through this whole transition of all this new knowledge and information that you're acquiring, so you can see the error in your ways. Or you can take all this information back to your teachers and whoever educated you and present this to them and see if they can have any other reasonings for it or whatever. But, you know, stick with me, homie. Me and you, we going places. You know what I'm saying? No boundaries, bro. No boundaries. There's always bright horizons. You know what I'm saying? Bright horizons. Shoot for the stars around this bitch, bro. You gotta aim high. Some guy. This motherfucker about stupid as a box of rocks right now. I got a lot of work to do with you, bro. A lot of work. You'll be alright, though. You know what I'm saying? This gonna be a motherfucker. This one of them shits like, people like you, I feel like I should get paid to even talk to you. Like, I gotta put you on a retainer or something. Come on, bro. This is counseling. This is your therapy. I don't want to have to be that person. I'm volunteering to do this shit. You know? To help monkey motherfuckers like you try to be motherfucking civil. It's a rough job, man. You know what I'm saying? I feel like one of them vigilante, not exactly like a superhero, but like kind of like Knight Rider a little bit. You know, cause Michael Knight, he had no superpowers. He just had a car. You know, his car was smart as shit. That shit can go real fast. It can talk to him. It can drive by itself and like jump. How many cars you know that can jump? Your car can't jump, not unless it hit a ramp. And then his car had his own truck that it rode in, so that shit was tight, yo. But he was just still like this regular dude. I feel like I'm kind of like that, you know, like this vigilante, like a Knight Rider. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm just a normal person, but I got technology. You know, so I probably got more technology than Kit had. Because I got cameras, microphones, GPS, global positioning satellites, motherfucking Wi-Fi's and laptops and touchscreen handheld smart devices. I feel like, you know what I'm saying? Like it's my job to educate your monkey ass. Like I'm some kind of Batman or some shit. I say, I don't get paid to do this shit, man. Huh? I do this in my spare time. I'm not just against racism, I'm anti-racism. And I'm pro reparations. Fuck that. Give me my money. Give me my monies. Ooh, ooh. Give me my monies. Yeah, yeah. Give me my monies. Ooh, ooh. Give me my monies. Yeah, yeah. Bruh, get the fuck out of here. My tube of paint, gambling. Ooh. Give me my... Where you live in an apartment? I live in a 5-bedroom house with 2 bathrooms by myself. You know, everybody be like, what the fuck? I'm like, yep. Yep. Give me my money. Where my reparations at? I still want my fucking check. I don't give a fuck because I would sell this house to get a nicer one. With a bigger yard. I'm too close to people. I need to buy more land. I need more land so I can spread out. I need enough land to ride a 4-wheel on, you know what I'm saying? Some shit like that. Yeah, bro. I use a Gambling Pro Series. $32 for a tube of paint, $20 for a tube of yellow. That's $19.89. That's still $20. And this Amazon with the cheap prices. $23 for that. And these are the small tubes. Get out of there, bro. One of my tubes of paint, paid $32 for that blue because it's so pretty. It's so hard to get that pigment. And so Gambling charged the fuck out of you for that. Cerulean blue hue. Boy, you gonna pay for that shit. $32 for a tube of paint. That's why my painting's so expensive. And the paint make it so beautiful that no matter what I say, you still stick around just to watch this shit. and it looked so beautiful, you had to even make a joke about it. Like, oh, where you get your paint from? Walmart? You know this shit looks amazing. Amazing, right? It is some kind of gift, because I look at it myself. Like right now while I'm doing it, I'm looking at this shit like, yo, how the fuck are you doing that shit, bro? That shit look amazing, son. That shit just cool as shit. And somehow it just works. And I don't really know like how. I try to teach lessons and explain that shit to people, man, but you know, some people got it, some people don't. I can explain what I do to the best of my ability. If you can't understand that shit, it's just mushing colors around. You know, like seeing the colors and being able to blend what color you need with another color and getting that shit right, and then being able to apply that to the canvas. I don't know, man. You just gotta have a feel for that shit. But it's so amazing. It captivates the fuck out of you for, you know, minutes and hours on end, to the point where I literally have become the most important thing in your life right now. If there was anything else at this moment that was more important, that you would be doing that. You would be texting your grandmother if she's on her deathbed, and you know, if that was more, you know, whatever is more important, you would be doing that. But right now, at this very moment, this is like the most important shit I got to do right now. Fuck. Send this guy some fucking trolling ass messages about his beautiful art and his logical and fact-based arguments and opinions. Fucking sickens me. You'll be alright, bro. At least you give me somebody to talk to. You can learn a lot from a dummy. I ain't learned shit from you yet, other than you are a dummy and you need some counseling and some help. But beyond that, you know, maybe. I don't know. I don't know. You know? Hey. But don't we all need counseling? You know, this world's fucked up, man. The world is fucked up that it even has produced a person like you. That's how you know the world is fucked up, because like people like you exist. And it's like, damn. Like how did it even get to this point where there are people like this in the world today still? And it's like, keyboard make a motherfucker strong as shit. Boy, I tell you, that touchpad, that make a motherfucker strong as shit. How do we get here? What's the end to all of this ridiculous behavior? Huh? Who are still making people like this? You make. Sometimes I wish I could just, you know, take a motherfucker by the hand and walk them right to their parents and stare their parents right in the eyes and be like, did you make this person? And just see if I can see any slight hint of shame or embarrassment in their eyes. Like, yeah, motherfucker, you should be ashamed. This is your child? You made, huh? What the fuck did you do? How did you make a degenerate? Jesus Christ, you put a degenerate out in the world. He's probably gonna fuck sheep or molest some little kids, or, you know, be like some fucking racist who shoots up a he finished praying with the people or some crazy shit. You know? That's the kind of person you made. Think about it. Take that shit to the grave with you. You know? You made a degenerate. How do you feel about that? Huh? Yeah, I see that shame in your eyes. You can't hide that shit. Parents are shameless fuck. The white lady who was going around saying she was black, and then like saying that, claiming that this other dude was her dad, and then her real dad stepped up. She was like, "Bitch, what's wrong with you?" Oh man. When she was like the president of the NAACP, she wanted to be the first black president of the chapter from her section. I was like, huh? Who do what now? And she just got a tan. She claimed to be a light-skinned black lady. Wow. Let's get back to this reparation thing, though, man. Where my money's at, man? I need my money. I need my $375,000 reparation check. You know how? That's what I need to Google. How much does 40 acres cost right now? You know what I'm saying? In a moderate state that doesn't have, extreme high, land prices. Somewhere like in one of the Dakotas, where there's not a lot of people or something, like on average. How much would you have to spend to buy 40 acres of land? I want that plus interest in inflation. You know what I'm saying? Just gave everybody in America a COVID crisis check. Like that shit wasn't nothing. Y'all could have dished out some checks to the Negroes over the course of 10 years or whatever. You ain't had to even do it all in one shot. But nah, y'all like, fuck that name game. It's all good, bro. I'm gonna get them reparations. Ooh, 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 ooh. I'm gonna get them reparations. Give me that loot. Get them reparations. I need my reparations so I can start some generational wealth. I need my reparations. 'Cause I'ma open up a gallery. Maybe in France. And I'm eat me some horsey overs and some eggplants. Give me my, I need my reparations. Reparations. Give me my reparations. So I can start some generational wealth. It's not your fault you're uneducated. Ew, the hate. So hateful. So what do you do this morning, buddy? I watched this uneducated black man. You can't even tell that shit to nobody. What kind of story are you gonna tell that to somebody? How long did you watch that for? Oh, about an hour or so. It was really good though. You know what? I guess that's kind of like me watching the Tiger King. Those guys are kind of smart. I mean, they had a zoo. And, you know, they made it work for a minute. Gotta be smart enough to do that. I mean, I'm smart enough to do this. I'm smart enough to keep you watching my stream and giving my channel views. You know? Smart enough to utilize my talent. Ooh, make some money off this junk. What? Imagine how much a painting like this would cost, bro. Imagine that. And then imagine I got another painting that's lined up for another client. And then imagine if I just got finished doing the painting. Somebody got to have some type of education some way, even if it ain't nothing but some street education, nigga. Shit. I can't help you uneducated. I'm street smart. Smarter than you are. What did that mean? Smarter than you are? Oh, hell. Don't lose an argument to somebody you just called uneducated, man. Come on, bro. You can't do that. I'm thinking you must be like a teenager or still in your 20s. You sound very, very childish. I'm just saying. You have a childish quality to your vocabulary. Just give me my reparations so I can start some generational wealth. Just give me my reparations so I can start some generational wealth. Ooh, economic platforms. Capital to start a business with. Economic platforms. Capital to start a business. Give me my reparation. Somebody writing this down? Y'all getting this? This is a hit, man. I tell you, I can't sing, but I'm gonna write that shit though. Give me my like all the songs, like all my old rap songs. When you hear the dude singing, every time he sings, I wrote that. Like when he got on the track with me, he never had to write anything. I was like, bro, I got you. And sometimes I would write, there's twice where I wrote something specifically. I'm like, all right, bro, I need you again. I already got the hook written out for you. Let's do this real quick. And how you want it to sound? Friday night, about to hit the town tonight. And you know I got my pockets right. I got a couple ladies with me. Let me know you wanna roll, baby. Friday night, about to hit the town tonight. And you know I got my pockets right. I got a couple ladies with me. Let me know you wanna roll, baby. I sound trash saying that shit, but then as soon as he sang it, I was like, damn, nigga, you got it. That's it. That boy right there can sing. That boy can sing. That boy. Boy can sing his ass off. I forgot you ain't got no talent, so you don't know what that like, do you? Like writing songs or making beautiful paintings, you know, being charismatic enough to actually host a video podcast or anything like that. You don't do stuff like that. Yeah, you wouldn't understand. Ba dun 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 dun. All right. Okay. I think I might have to go get something to eat real quick. I might fix a bowl of cereal or something, you know. Do I have some toaster strudels? Damn, them shits would be bomb right now, yo. But, oh no, I gotta check the deep freezer. You know what? If I got toaster strudels, fuck that. Y'all might have a bowl of cereal and toaster strudels. And I gotta go to the bathroom.
I lost our. Let's take another caller. Screened list. Yeah, we've got Aziz. Thanks for waiting.
Hi, hello.
Hey. Are you there? Oh, what do you got?
Yeah, I am a little fan of this show. My friend watched this show, and he talked to me about this show, and I forgot to introduce myself. I am Aziz. I am from Saudi Arabia.
Oh,
yeah,
welcome.
sorry. Yeah. Hi. Yeah. I just want to ask. Do you believe that every religion cause
cause the extremists that they have, like Islam? Do you believe that they cause Daesh, and the Christianity they cause KKK? Do you believe that?
Are the religions the sole source of it? Is that what you're asking?
Yes.
No.
Yes. Do you believe that?
No. I think what we see from religions. So I think there are people who tend towards ideas, and if their religion tends to support those ideas and can be interpreted in such a way to foster those, then that's how you get more and more extreme. I also believe that there are people who may not tend towards the extreme, but who, if they are surrounded by a particular religious sect that is trending extreme, that those people can easily be moved there, that we are malleable, we want to fit in with the crowd, and we know that you can convince people to commit atrocities by convincing them that what they're doing is actually good. If you could convince someone to kill someone else, even if they were never inclined to actually killing another person to begin with, if you systematically break down the humanity of the other person and place them in an enemy box and make a strong case for why the world needs this person to die, I think you can move people to extremes, and I think some people are more easily moved than others, and I think that there are probably some people who won't be moved to extremes, and they will end up leaving the religion if it gets too extreme for a softer version. So it's a mix.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah. I just want to say that Islam have 99% of the Muslims are not extremists. Because they know that Islam are not Islam is not about that.
So where did you get the 99% number?
Because there is 1.5 billion Muslims, and if you take 1.5.
Sure. So
Muslims.
It also depends on what you're going to define, how you're going to define extreme, because when we look at polls, we see in different regions support for female genital mutilation may be incredibly high, but not to 99%, but 70, 80% in this region, and virtually non-existent in some others. And the idea of apostates being deserving of death or having the death penalty for blaspheming Allah or whatever, support for that is far above 1% in almost any region. So that's why I was. What do you think is extreme?
I think do you know what is 1% of 1.5 billion? There is 100 million, and there is no 100 million terrorists.
So maybe terrorists would have been a better word.
One of the causes.
So first of all, terrorists are different from extremists. They're probably the extremist of the extremists. But for example, there's a video online that you can go watch where you have a bunch of Muslims in the UK who are asked specific questions about what they would support. And their views and what they would support as far as, stoning women and other honor-killing type things, as far as what they think is good, far greater than 1%. Whether or not they actually take action on that is a separate issue.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I would think that if let's say there's 50% of Muslims in a particular area advocate for death for apostates, they're not all going to run around. They're not all.
These people do not reason. I am in the Mecca University, and we learn things there. And we when we sit with these terrorists, when we sit with these extremists, and we try to reason with them, they just shout, they don't want to reason. Because because when you show them like this, but when you show them Islam, they realize that they are wrong.
And shit nothing but Fruity Pebbles with marshmallows, yo. Instead of saying Pebbles is... Bruh. You missing out, yo. See? You missed that last part, though. With marshmallows. That's just Fruity Pebbles. That's all this shit is, bro. Fruity Pebbles with marshmallows in that shit. Banging. I gotta trim my nose hairs, yo. I'm tired of fucking... like, keep scratching my nose. And it's just my fucking nose hairs are long as shit. And they're hard to grab.
And they just shout, or they just, you know, it's scream, and they said, you are a kafir, you are a kafir. You know, like that. And these people do not reason. These people, when you talk to them, these people do not reason. And that, and that.
I would argue that they do and that everybody does, but what you're basically saying, I can understand, that they are not responsive to your attempts to sway them.
Yeah, if you just sit with one of these extremists, one of the...
This party's garbage. That bad, huh? It is that bad. It's like a bag of zero.
Try the Screamy Snickers. You could use a little smoothness.
And that one of the zeros?
And I'm
smooth with the fresh ground nut butters.
Bro, I'm damn near hairless, bro.
Sometimes it's way more video games than
I don't really.
time. Every once in a
I
while,
don't grow
a
hair.
game comes up, it just blows your mind. Hi folks, it's Falcon, and today on Game Ranks, 10 holy shit gaming moments from the 2000s. Starting off at number 10, Assassin.
But I noticed this in like the past 5 years. I'm getting older now. I'm almost 40. Like my ears get hair in that shit now. My nose hairs just grow so fucking long. Like when you breathe, you can feel that, and it's like it just tickles. Like just stop. Just lay the fuck down. Like I want to get some hair gel and just like, and then just like lay my nose hairs down like the little bitches be doing their baby hairs in the front. I need to do that to my nose hairs or something, because that shit just, every time you breathe in and out, is annoying as fuck, yo. And it's like, is this second puberty? Like, I don't like this. I don't like long nose hairs and hair in my ears. It's fucking stupid, is what it is.
Assassin's Creed 2. Now, the new Assassin's Creed games are great, of course, but I don't think that there's any denying the early ones really kind of nailed it in the story and lore department. Now, I'm not going to dive too deep into it, but there is that footage of Adam and Eve you can watch where they're running from someone or something, and they're in possession of an apple of Eden, and the area they're running around in is futuristic, like it's very sci-fi, and Adam and Eve themselves are very sci-fi, and it's kind of weird. This is a big fight as Ezio, where you're literally fist fighting the Pope, which sounds ridiculous to say out loud, but when you first come across it in the game, it's awesome.
I'm gonna have one more. Oh, dude. Dynamite.
Street stuff in Assassin's Creed has always been awesome, but I don't think they've ever topped Assassin's Creed 2. And this one is just way too good. Like, every time I see an Apple with Eden comic in the series, I still think back to Assassin's Creed 2, because that moment was badass. And at number 9, so the original Modern Warfare is notable for a ton of reasons and has more than a few wild, memorable moments. But for us, if we had to pick just one as the craziest one, we have to go with the game's 10th campaign mission, Shock and Awe. Now, this one, you're on the Americans' perspective. After spent about half the legwork to find the location of Khaled al-Assad, the leader of a group of separatists that have been wreaking havoc across the Middle East, and publicly executed the country's president. Anyway, you finally get a lead and prepare to hunt him down and commence the raid. You fight your way through, and the shoe drops. While all of this is going on, SEAL Team 6 discovered a nuclear threat, forcing all the Marines in the area to rapidly extract, because, I mean, there is a nuke. You gotta go. Now, that on its own is a lot, but on the process of extraction, you have to save a downed pilot, you do your hero thing, and you're on your way out. When, bam, the nuke detonates, you're caught within the blast radius, shockwave hits, chopper spirals out of control, you crash to the ground, screen goes black. Now you'd think that'd be enough, but they go one step further by loading back in and making you feebly crawl out of the helicopter to survey the wreckage and see your dead and dying comrades under the background of a fresh mushroom cloud until you finally succumb as well and die right there on the street. Yeah, it's a lot. But it was completely unexpected, and it blew us away to the point where we're still talking about it a literal decade later. And at number 8, we have to talk about Metal Gear Solid 2 Sons of Liberty. Like, there's a lot going on in this game, just in general, and there are a lot of things that are just going to boggle your brain. They're going to rattle it up, and you're going to be confused. First, we have Raiden. Leading up to the release, the only screenshots we saw only had Snake in them. We never saw anything about Raiden. We thought you were going to play the whole game as Solid Snake. Then, after the tanker chapter, came the big old switcheroo. Colonel Campbell is talking to someone named Snake, who's swimming into the big shell, similar to how Snake infiltrated Shadow Moses in the first game. Then he takes off his mask, and hey, it's not Snake. In fact, it's a drastically different dude. It's not Snake. He's younger. He's got long blonde hair, and it's weird. At first, it was a bit of a bummer, but Raiden ended up being pretty cool, especially when they...
I could actually eat another bowl of their cereal, but I'm not going to do it.
The whole end of the game, which we can't explain that.
That's just
if
being
you play
greedy.
the game, you know exactly what we're talking about. Everything about the game goes full-on weird sci-fi, and some of it is bordering on total nonsense. It's definitely the kind of ending that you have to, like, Google after you roll credits, and you're just like, well, I kind of understand. In all seriousness, though, it's been nearly 2 decades, and I do understand it at this point. So there, Hideo Kojima, you thought you could stop us, but all we have is time, man. And at number 7, if you haven't played Final Fantasy X, the basic rundown is that you and your crew are venturing out with the end goal of defeating a big bad monster called Sin, who terrorizes the world through the powers of summoner units, and upon reaching the final destination is revealed in order to defeat the creature, even temporarily, a summoner has to summon their final Aeon, which has to be born by someone close to them. And only that Aeon can kill Sin. However, the final Aeon will always then turn, kill its summoner, and transform into a new Sin, which will eventually become a threat to the whole world. Once again, it's a reveal that serves to know that this evil can never truly be extinguished, and it's part of a seemingly endless cycle of death and rebirth. You're ultimately just a cog in that machine. All of that was dropped like a bomb, and you really had no idea where the game was going to go from there. You're just like, whoa, that's a lot of information at once. Now that said, it is a Final Fantasy game, so you'll eventually end breaking the cycle and kill the evil. But as far as late game plot twists and world reveals, one of the best ever. Also, it's insane. And at number 6, we are talking about Big Smoke, you know, from Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. For most of the game, Big Smoke seems to be a very good friend, and might I add, a very likable character. I mean, how many of you can recite his fast food order, word for word? Probably at least some, and that's exactly my point. Well, eventually, Big Smoke betrays you and becomes the biggest drug baron in Los Santos. There are some things that happen along the way that kind of hint, like the mission where you're chasing down the train, you know, the mission with the famous train line.
All we had to do was follow the damn train, CJ.
Ryder also sides with Big Smoke, but he gets killed by CJ. Smoke gets tons of people in his drug ring, actually. Like OG Loke, who he uses to launder his money as his manager. After CJ and Sweet build Grove Street back up, you find where Big Smoke's hiding, and you take him out. The holy shit moment is really when you find out it's been Smoke who's been the bad guy the whole time. Because he's just so like I genuinely when it happened. Like, it's definitely one of the better plot twists of any of the GTA games, because it gets you genuinely involved. I can remember it being like, Big Smoke, man, come on, Big Smoke, not like this. At number...
This party's garbage.
That bad,
It is that bad. It's like a bag of
zeros.
Try the Screamy Snickers. You can use a little smoothness.
Is that one of the zeros?
Get smooth with the fresh ground nut butters and creamy Snickers.
And when you picked up Shadow of the Colossus, you kind of had an idea what you were looking for, but you didn't really know what the sense of scale was until you started to play. You boot up the game, you sent on your first quest, slay beasts. You're kind of just going through the motions for a while. You use pretty standard world traversal stuff, but then you first see that Colossus and you just sort of milling about. You can't help but stare for a minute in all of its size, because when you think of yourself, you're like, oh, I just have a bow and a little dinky sword. How are we doing this? From there, you figure out that these aren't just enemies. They're each like a big, hairy, moving puzzle and traversal set. You gotta figure out the best way to get on top, so you climb your way to its weak point and take it down without getting crushed or thrown off to your death. I mean, it's an intense and genuinely super unique experience. At least it was at the time, anyhow. And we can't recommend it enough if you still haven't played it for whatever reason. I mean, there are similar experiences, but like, it's A, the first, and B, like, really, there's nothing that kind of ever has done it as good. And at number 4, we're talking about Fallout 3. There are just so many incredible,
my
great,
favorite
shocking moments and full-on storylines in Fallout 3.
Fallout 3 is my
Ranging from
favorite
the
one,
story
yeah.
plot twist, weird encounters just out in the wild with no quests involved.
The Alien
And some are
DLC?
just
Oh my
literally
god.
made to be completely missable. You don't necessarily find every single thing just doing what you're told. But when it comes to the biggest and most impactful holy shit moment for this one, we'd be fools not to talk about the big world reveal at the start of the game. If you don't remember or just haven't played Fallout 3, which, you know, do that if you haven't, you start the game in a vault. I mean, that's standard Fallout procedure. You go through your childhood, though, and you grow up going through all the motions. Like, you see things through the eyes of a vault dweller before things go horribly wrong. You need to leave the vault before it's scheduled to be opened. And when you do, oh boy, you step out into the world, and it's all just presented to you in a way that just lets you know there's a whole world out there for you to explore, and they were just throwing you right into it. Now, granted, future following games have done the same thing in the time since, but there's just something really special about that first time it happened in Fallout 3. I mean, everything before was a completely different style of game and perspective, so being a first-person game and having that blinding light bloom effect revealed a vast, sprawling wasteland before you as you step foot outside the vault for the first time on your journey to Megaton. It was intense, and it still holds up to this day as being a really cool moment. And in the minutes following, you really get to just see that world, walking through towns, ruins, remains, cracked pre-war roads destroyed by time and obvious, like, conflict. It just set the tone really well, so we gotta give that moment props. Moving on to number 3, we're talking about Medal of Honor Allied Assault, specifically the D-Day mission. The game came out a few years after Saving Private Ryan, which gave a pretty intense look as to what the D-Day mission was like. Obviously, unless you were there, you never really knew how it was. You know, movies and games can only do so much. Looking back at it now, it really isn't much, but at the time, this was intense. There was gunfire everywhere, the screen was just shaking constantly from explosions, soldiers are yelling, dying. It was really intense. And a few years later, Medal of Honor did something similar with Rising Sun, where you get to play through Pearl Harbor, which was probably just as cool, but like D-Day, man, that's an intense mission. Coming down to number 2 is Batman Arkham Asylum, which is filled with a lot of holy shit moments because of how full of cool stuff the game is. Well, one of the coolest things is when you're just walking down a corridor, being a Batman, minding your own business, doing your bat thing, and then bam, the screen starts to glitch out. I remember thinking something was up with my TV or my console or something, and then a cutscene starts showing the bat symbol, it's upside down, kind of looks like a Jackal interface. But then you see the Batmobile driving up to Arkham Asylum, and it's the Joker driving, with a deranged Batman as a passenger. And you relive the beginning of the game where Batman is walking up to a restrained Joker into Arkham Asylum, but instead Batman is the restraining one, and Joker's walking in. Then some other nightmarish things happen. You realize you're in one of Scarecrow's nightmares, and then a boss fight starts up. The whole encounter is just awesome, from the cutscene to the actual boss fight. Rocksteady had the Arkham series figured out from the very first game. They managed to deliver awesome bits, just like this one, across all of their games. But this one just stood out because it's something that you weren't necessarily expecting was possible in the game at all. And finally, at number 1, it's the BioShock twist. It's just so damn good on pretty much every level. It's so good, it's still effective on repeat playthroughs. In fact, it's actually enhanced on repeat playthroughs because you already know it. And you're seeing things throughout the game that you're just like, breadcrumb. Maybe should have figured this out myself. Throughout BioShock, you're going through the ravaged and splicer-ridden underwater city of Rapture after being the only survivor of a deadly plane crash over the Atlantic Ocean. You are guided over the radio by a man using the name Atlas and an Irish accent who gets you to help him on his quest to stop the city's founder, the evil, the powerful Andrew Ryan. Eventually, your character Jack makes his way to Andrew Ryan's office, where he's just hanging out, playing golf, just sort of waiting. He explains that he knows all about Atlas's plans and that Atlas isn't who he says he is, but also that Jack isn't some random survivor of a plane crash. He's actually Andrew Ryan's own son, who was taken by Atlas and brought to the surface where he's genetically modified to age rapidly, as well as mentally conditioned to obey orders with a phrase, and at this point you should know that phrase if you're a fan of the game, "Would you kindly?" which Andrew Ryan then uses against you to force you to kill him to, I guess, prove a point. I don't know, I would maybe have proven a different point. Like, would you kindly not kill me? Oh hey, look, I'm good now. I'm not beaten down with a golf club. But hey, that's me. I've never been Andrew Ryan. It's really a wild revelation because you realize at the moment Jack hears a voice over a walkie-talkie say, "Would you kindly pick up that shortwave radio?" that this dude has been controlling you literally the entire time. It was all planned, all laid out ahead of time, and it was just a power grab, man. It was great. Do you remember your own reaction to any of these moments, or have a moment that you want to share with us? Maybe one that wasn't mentioned here? Leave us a comment, let us know what you're thinking, and if you like this video, please click like. If you're not subscribed, now's a great time to do so. We upload brand new videos every day of the week. The best way to see them first is, of course, a subscription. So click subscribe. Don't forget to enable all notifications. And as always, we thank you very much for watching this video. I'm Falcon. You can follow me on Twitter, Falcon the Hero. We'll see you next time, right here on Game Ranks.
This party's garbage. That bad, huh? It is that bad. It's like a bag of zeros.
Try this creamy Snickers. You can use a little smoothness.
Is that one of the zeros?
Get smooth with the fresh ground nut butters and creamy Snickers.
Fresh ground nut butters. Nut butters. Almond nut butter. Hazel butter.
Open worlds are usually
pecan butter. Everything ain't gotta be peanut butter, man.
World doesn't necessarily equal good world. Hi folks, it's Falcon, and today on Game Ranks, the best small open world games out there, part 1. Starting off at number 10, it's Dying Light. The map of this zombie-based parkour game isn't really that big, but it's actually kind of a good thing because you don't get a car like in the expansion to get around, so you have to go everywhere on foot. The city of Haran, where the game takes place, is this playground for freerunning. It's so well designed. It is a game where it's just as fun to avoid zombies as it is to deal with them. The map's actually kind of split into 2 parts, the slums and the old town. Neither is huge, but they're really vertical, and you'll spend a lot of this game standing on roofs rather than city streets. This is a game where you're on a time limit as well. It's relatively safe during the day, but during the night, it gets really, really dark. Not like video game darkness, but more. Also, during the night, you're forced to deal with volatiles, which are super-powered zombies that stalk around at night. And kill you in seconds. The map is really small compared to a lot of massive open-world games out there, but being forced to get around it on foot makes you feel every step. At number 9 is the mall from Dead Rising 1, which is not totally open world, but it's cool and worth mentioning. It's a huge mall, but pretty small for being the entire area you play the game in. There's only 7 main areas, plus the maintenance tunnels. Now, Dead Rising is a pretty unique game in that there's always a ticking clock. You've got 3 days to complete your investigation, while you've got to avoid zombies, rescue survivors, and deal with some ridiculous psychos to figure out what's really going on. All things considered, 3 days is not a long time span. Playing the game, you're going to have to really learn the ins and outs of them all, like learn where the best weapons are, where to find healing items, etc. And plotting your route to avoid zombies and not waste too much time is a really big part of the game. You're obviously on that time limit, and it's tough to get everything done in one playthrough. Your progress carries over every time you start over, so there's incentive to play through the game multiple times. Fully understanding them all can make the game much easier, though. And number 8 is Bully. It's set in the Bulworth Academy in the town called
played that game, Bully.
Bulworth. And this game is pretty unusual for a Rockstar game just because of the smaller stakes. The protagonist is smaller, your objectives are smaller, like raiding a girl's dorm or protecting a bullied nerd, and the map is, well, suitably smaller. It doesn't really feel small because at most you've got a bike, and that's obviously not like driving around in a car on a map. And all the while you're going to school, so you're pretty much on a time limit just how much you can even go out and do things. Hell, it takes a while before you even get access to the town. A big chunk of the early game is just limited to the academy. Still, it's a great game that adds a ton of variety and detail to the GTA formula. Many of the students and townies are specific characters who have certain routines they do, and in general the town feels a little bit more lived in than any of the previous Rockstar games. And number 7 is Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines. It's a vampire RPG, and it actually only takes place in a few small areas of Los Angeles, Santa Monica, downtown, Hollywood, and Chinatown. And each area is really only as big as a city block or two, but they're just jam-packed with details. This RPG is really dense. There's not a lot of downtime between missions, and it's better for it. Each map is dotting with things to do and people to talk to, and of course, opportunities to do vampire stuff, like hypnotize people, sneak around some vamped sewers, or of course, suck some blood. I mean, Bloodlines is a little bit on the short side, but rather than it feel kind of like a ripoff, it feels concise, and it's fun, and it really just, it doesn't waste your time. It's worth every minute. At number 6 is Shadow of Mordor. This open-world, rock-steady, Batman-like game sees you sneaking around 2 relatively small areas of Mordor, I mean, it's a Lord of the Rings game, on a quest of vengeance against some dudes who killed your family or something. I mean, the main plot isn't really that important in this game. It's really just the orcs that are the star of the show. Because of the relatively small map sizes, you're pretty much seeing orcs all the time, and because of how fast you can run, it makes it pretty easy to get from one end of the map to the other. You add in the Nemesis system, and you're dealing with all kinds of randomly generated orcs, and that game will keep you busy for sure. Though, thankfully, the game isn't actually that long, which, given how many orcs you end up stabbing, does a good job of help keeping it from seeming repetitive. I mean, this game isn't, like, algorithmic or anything, but the systems in place are basically what attracted people to the game, and the people that love it for that reason. And number 5 is Mafia 2, which takes place in the city of Empire Bay. Now, Empire Bay is a pretty cool looking city, but it's not very big. This criminal open world game's map is relatively small in comparison to the gigantic ones you see in other, even gangster games. But it makes up for the size of it by being extremely detailed. Some of the environments are impressive.
Oh my god, I can't get on the same length.
You play as Vito Scaletta, and the game is about your rise to becoming a made man. So basically Goodfellas, but in the 1950s. Well, all in the 1950s. The world of this game, hell, the game itself, is really all about all the period details. When you go into an apartment, it's really 1950s feeling. Driving around is very different from Grand Theft Auto because the cars are from the 1950s. And all of this stuff was really meticulously researched to make it look super authentic, and it adds so much to the game. I mean, you kind of have to specifically pay attention to map size to notice that it's not that big. And number 4 is The Outer Worlds. Here's the 3-word pitch for the game: Fallout in space. And not like cheap Fallout in space, it's made by the original guys behind the original Fallout and Fallout New Vegas, And what this game does is trades a sprawling open map like in New Vegas for a series of smaller locations that are set on different planets. Other than that, it's Fallout. It's first-person RPG with a heavy emphasis on guns. You can talk your way out of situations, you can sneak, recruit party members, it's all that stuff. Outside of just being set on smaller maps than in Fallout, it's just in general a smaller, more focused game. If you feel like some of the newer Fallout games feel bloated or barren or just too damn big, Outer Worlds and everything that it has to say and do will definitely appeal to you, because it's not only more manageable, but it puts all of that extra effort that you might see put into the map into charm. In my opinion, the Outer Worlds has charm that even Fallout 4 doesn't really have. Not that Fallout 4 doesn't have any charm, it's just the Outer Worlds it's hard to resist. And number 3 is the Shenmue series, which is really known for its detailed environments, especially in the first and third games. Hong Kong in Shenmue 2 is actually gigantic compared to the small town of Yokosuka in Shenmue 1 and Bailu Village in Shenmue 3. But what's special about these games is how you can explore the environment. You can go into a lot of houses, you can open drawers, generally just rifle through people's stuff. There's also tons of stuff to do, like gamble and play arcade games, practice martial arts. And what's pretty wild about the first and third games is how almost every character has unique dialogue, depending on what point in the story you're at. It's just a huge attention to detail that makes these small areas feel more alive, even if the games can get pretty goofy at times.
Oh, hello, yo.
At number 2 is the Yakuza series in Kamurocho. I mean, we can't really mention Shenmue and praise it in that way without doing the same for Yakuza. Yakuza is kind of the refinement of that formula to a point of perfection. But Kamurocho is its main hub of activity for pretty much every Yakuza game, and there's been a lot of them. What makes this location so unusual isn't just how detailed it is. I mean, it's relatively small, it only covers a few city blocks, but there's tons of stores, arcades, restaurants, and back alleys to check out. But that even though it's the same place in every single game, there's always something new to find. Seriously, if you've played this series for a long time, you start to learn this place like the back of your hand. I mean, if you just describe to somebody the fact that they use the same map in pretty much every single one of these games, they'd probably accuse them of being lazy, but it's easy to see why they do it. The place has just become so beloved with fans, but it's also easy to see the amount of detail and love they put into it every time. Basically, Yakuza games are open-world beat-em-ups where you wander around, beat up bad guys, play some Virtua Fighter, and race toy cars. It's a weird series with a lot of melodramatic stuff mixed up with some truly goofy side content as well. At this point, the Yakuza series is almost a genre of its own, and though the city is small, it's literally every single time fun to explore. And at number 1, it's Batman Arkham City. It's hard to imagine, but the entire play area of this game is not even close to a square mile. I mean, it is absolutely tiny compared to some of the more massive open-world games out there, but it's just packed with stuff. I mean, do we need to go into a detailed explanation of this game? It's just a phenomenal Batman game. The open world is dense and detailed, it's fun to get around using Batman's gadgets, and you're always finding really cool stuff to do, or Riddler trophies. This is one of those games where by the end of it, you just feel like the world is your domain, so to speak. And of course, the map that Rocksteady made for it is entirely wide. But what do you think? Leave us a comment, let us know. If you like this video, click like. If you're not subscribed, now's a great time to do so. We upload brand new videos every day of the week. The best way to see them first is, of course, a subscription. So click subscribe and enable all notifications. As always, thank you very much for watching this video. I'm Falcon. You can follow me on Twitter, Falcon Hero, and we'll see you next time right here on Game Rings.
Today we want to just talk about some fun games. So we're talking about 10 surprisingly brilliant single-player games. This is pretty broad. Some just came out of nowhere. Others are more interesting than they look on the surface. This list could have probably had 100 games on it. These are our choices. We're looking forward to hearing yours down in the comments. Maybe for part 2? Anyways, let's get started off with number 10. There are so many gritty third-person shooters out there that it really takes a lot to stand out and really show itself as something more than the others. And man, did Spec Ops: The Line do that and then some. Spec Ops really sets itself apart by just having an incredible campaign, like from pretty much start to finish. It's got so many cool ideas that cram into there as you make your way through a story that's clearly influenced by classics like Apocalypse Now and Heart of Darkness. The story really goes in some really dark and unexpected directions in ways that we weren't used to seeing in games when it dropped in 2012. You play as Captain Martin Walker, leader of a 3-man elite Delta
Spec Ops.
Force team,
What
sent
console
to a
is that on?
sandstorm-ravaged Dubai on a recon mission and ultimately have to fight your way through the city to take out your old commander, Colonel John Conrad. In doing so, you're going to fight through the city, making your way through some really interesting and stressful combat encounters, and really using the environment to your advantage whenever possible. It's really cool stuff, honestly. Obviously, the story goes places, but we're not going to spoil it here because when that stuff hits, it hits hard and is super effective and worth the price of admission alone. And it's one of the coolest shooter campaigns we've seen in a while. That said, it still had its faults. I mean, yeah, the multiplayer was kind of whack, but this isn't a list of 10 great multiplayer games now, is it? The single player still kicked ass in a way that we're still talking about it 8 years later. At number 9, we have The Wolf Among Us. In the studio's heyday, Telltale Games really did put out some pretty great single player experiences. But if we had to pick just one, we'd go with The Wolf Among Us, hands down. It's a Telltale game, so you know what you're getting, a well-made adventure game with a cool cel-shaded art style and some very, very good characters and dialogue interactions.
Yeah, I killed him, so what?
The Wolf Among Us is based on the comic series Fables. Although the game takes place around 20 years prior to that, in 1986 Manhattan, in a world where mythical creatures mask their appearance and live side by side with humans. In this world, you're Big B Wolf, formerly the Big Bad Wolf and Sheriff of Fabletown, the area of the city where these creatures tend to live and congregate. While just going through the motions and doing his job, Big B falls into a web of murder and corruption that he has to unravel over the course of the rest of the game. Gameplay is what you'd expect, walking around and collecting environmental information, navigating dialogue trees, making big moral decisions that will determine the story going forward, and engaging in some really cool action scenes that were above and beyond the stuff you'd see in games like The Walking Dead up until that point. It's some of Telltale's best work, and if you haven't checked it out yet, what are you doing? There's a second one coming, so get on it.
This is why everyone hates you.
At number 8, we have The Stanley Parable. Now, this game is strange. You spawn into an office building and you're just sort of walking around the environment and interacting with objects and other environmental elements. The story is presented by a way of a narrator who is constantly telling you what's going on as you explore, and the story can branch and change based on your choices and the actions you perform. It's an incredibly simple game, but it goes in some really weird and interesting places, culminating in a total of 10 possible endings, with a run of the game taking you around an hour. Anything else we say about this game would spoil the surprises, but know that if you like a small, short, quirky game experience, you probably like this one.
Okay, I'm going to stop you there. Now, tell me about your experience with this new version. Would you say that the game benefited from allowing you more choices? Feel free to be honest. I'm looking for some real here. A 1?
At number 7, What Remains of Edith Finch is a really interesting game. This is a first-person exploration game where you play as a member of the Finch family who visits the Finch family home. The Finches are supposedly plagued with some curse that causes all but one member of each generation to die in unusual ways, leaving one member to continue the family name. The Finch house is a bit weird, and as you explore it, you learn how each family member died by exploring their bedrooms. And their bedrooms act as a bit of a shrine, I guess. They seem to be left mostly untouched. As you interact with each shrine, you experience a memory of that family member, with each one varying in gameplay, and it shows you how that person dies. This is very much one of the games you would use as an example when talking about video games as an art form. The story is very well thought out, and I honestly don't think there is anything else like it. The narrative hooks you almost immediately, and learning more and more about this family over the course of the game is really cool because it's a really interesting family. And there are some really cool twists and turns that we don't want to talk about because, you know, obviously spoilers. If you're a fan of games like Gone Home and Firewatch, this is one that you definitely have to jump into because it's one of the weirder ones in this genre of games. At number 6, Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons has a really cool gameplay mechanic, one that really makes it stand out. You take on the role of two brothers, obviously, that set out to find a cure for their sick father. And what's really cool is you control both brothers at the same time. So it's kind of like a single-player co-op game, I guess. Each brother is controlled by one of two thumbsticks, so you'll have control of both brothers at once while you explore environments, solving puzzles, and fighting bosses. This is a killer game, one that gets pretty emotional too. Like, it definitely hits you in the feels a bit, and it's made by the dude who made A Way Out, which is a great co-op game as well. So this dude gets co-op, like he knows what he's doing. He's also a film director, and his experience with that 100% carries over into this game. I'd highly recommend checking both of his games out, honestly, because they're both very good. At number 5, Undertale was a game that seemingly came out of nowhere. It looked like yet another retro-style cutesy adventure game, but what it did with the story and its approach to just combat and classic RPG stuff in general is what really makes it stand out. What starts out as a simple adventure of you, a young boy, falling into a mysterious underground, quickly becomes something much more, filled with interesting creatures, friendly and otherwise. How you engage with them was the cool part. When encountering a monster, do you try to kill them in combat, do you flee, or attempt to befriend them? There's exploration, puzzles, fun gameplay sequences, and lots of interesting dialogue and choices. Couple this with a cool aesthetic and some great music, and you've got a match made in heaven for many players out there. Moving on to number 4, we have Subnautica, and this is a wild one. At a glance, I get how it can just seem like another crafting and survival game, but it really does feel like so much more than that. Crash landed and trapped on an alien world surrounded by nothing but water, you have to explore and craft your way back to safety and off of the planet. But there's also a really cool alien mystery to pursue and unravel over the course of the game. And in doing so, it's a long, lonely journey in a desolate ocean where you'll only occasionally get a radio transmission from another person or pick up logs from the crewmates who perished in the crash. You're constantly finding new ways to go deeper and explore harsher, more remote parts of the ocean, needing to craft new personal gear, and eventually stepping your game up to build full-on submarines and the like that can nestle smaller vessels inside of it, all while managing resources and power and the like to make sure you don't get stranded at the bottom of the ocean with no way out, while avoiding and fending off the dangerous wildlife that lurks beneath the surface. It's a really interesting spin on the survival genre, and we haven't really seen a ton like it, aside from the Subnautica Below Zero, a standalone expansion that takes place on a different frozen part of the same planet a year later, so it really stands out, and honestly, we're kind of crazy about it. Next up at number 3, we have Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice. I'm sure by now you all know that we're big fans of Hellblade over here, and for good reason. In Hellblade, you play as Senua, who is journeying to Helheim to rescue the soul of her dead lover from the goddess Hela. But there's way more in the game than that. Senua suffers from psychosis, and the dev team actually worked with neuroscientists and non-profit organizations to make sure that they included it right and made sure that it was accurately represented. And it was a pretty intense representation. All the visual effects on screen, the voices in her head, etc., etc. The gameplay is definitely the weakest part of the game, which I know doesn't sound good for a video game, but it isn't bad by any means. I don't want you to think that it's bad. It's good enough to move the game along, but the gameplay itself just isn't the point of the game. It's 100% about Senua's journey. Also, Melina Jurgen's performance, and I'm sorry if I just butchered her name, as Senua is unreal. She also had no experience with motion capture and voice acting and was just acting as a stand-in, but she did such a good job that they just rolled with it. Hellblade is amazing, and it's definitely something that you have to play. Coming down to number 2, we have A Plague Tale: Innocence. This is an interesting one. Leading up to the launch, it seemed very, just like whatever. Then it launches, and it felt like a big budget game, and it was thrilling, and it took a lot of people by surprise, and has very much become another Hellblade type game, like a smaller, unassuming game that you have to play. You play as Amasia during 1349-era France, as it's being ravaged by a vicious plague. As all of that is going on, you're trying to get your brother through it. Most of the game is stealth-based, actually. You have one weapon, a slingshot type thing, which can be used to cause distractions, stun guards, etc. The game also has these insane waves of rats, like oceans of rats, like World War Z zombies. Rats, like bad rats. Rats that will eat you, and you have to keep them at bay with stuff like fire, but you can also send them after enemies to devour them, which, it's kind of messed up. Taking care of your brother doesn't ever come off as a chore either, which is good, seeing that, the whole game, unlike Ashley in Resident Evil 4, keeping him safe isn't annoying. Like I said before, this is an interesting one that just came out of nowhere and got everyone's attention for good reason. And this game is also gorgeous. It's so nice to look at and has some amazing environments. Finally, at number 1, we have Nier Automata. Man, where to start with this one? It certainly is an interesting one. What probably seems like your usual Japanese action RPG at first really gets weirder and more interesting as you get deeper into it, especially after you spend a good 6 to 10 hours hacking and slashing your way through the game. You reach the end and it's, let's say, less than climactic or satisfying. In most games you'd be like, well, guess that's it. But not here. At that point, you've just seen the first ending, the A ending, one of 26 possible endings and 5 main endings. And honestly, the game doesn't really reach its real ending until you wrap endings A through E. And even then, there are 21 other bad endings to discover and see if you really want to. With the 5 runs through the game taking around 40 hours, you're going to have a ton of time to really explore this post-humanity world, getting deep into the game's truly interesting combat system and experiencing the story that, like, we're not going to spoil anything here because it's a true, unique experience, and we don't want to ruin anything about it. But let's just say that it goes places, and we'll just leave it at that. Definitely experience it knowing as little as possible if you can, because it really is one of the wildest single-player experiences we've played in a very long time. And before we go, we just have some quick bonuses for you. First up, we have Life is Strange. This is one where after seeing the first trailer for it, I knew it wasn't for me. Then for some reason I played it anyway, and I fell absolutely in love with it. Yeah, it's pretty cheesy, and at times it feels like an even cheesier CW show, but it had a lot of heart and some really, really cool characters. And finally, we have Titanfall 2. This one was a huge surprise, seeing that the first one didn't have a campaign, so I don't think any of us were really expecting much from Titanfall 2. Then we get an awesome buddy cop story with some of the best time-traveling stuff I've seen in video games ever. And those are 10 surprisingly brilliant single-player games. We want to hear from you, so meet us down in the comments and let us know what you think. As usual, hitting that like button really helps us out. And if you're new here, subscribing is a good idea because we put out videos like this every single day. As always, thank you for stopping by and hanging out with us. We really appreciate it. And we'll see you next time right here on Game Ranks.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Nick930, and to celebrate the upcoming release of Call of Duty Modern Warfare, I want to share with you the complete history of Call of Duty. Call of Duty is a first-person shooter franchise initially created by Infinity Ward and published by Activision. The series spans multiple time periods, with several of the earlier titles focusing on real battles that took place during World War II, while later, more recent titles focus on fictional modern conflicts and futuristic scenarios. Call of Duty is known for its epic, over-the-top battle sequences and its incredibly addicting multiplayer components, and is easily one of the biggest, most popular first-person shooter franchises in the gaming industry. But exactly how did Call of Duty get to be so popular? And more importantly, how has it managed to stay on top of the sales charts every year for nearly 2 decades? Well, to answer that, let's start by looking at how the series started back in the early 2000s. In the year 2000, the American filmmaker Steven Spielberg reached out to a small PC game development studio called 2015 Incorporated to design a follow-up to the critically acclaimed Medal of Honor. 2015 Inc., who had made a name for themselves for their high-quality FPS Quake engine mods, accepted the contract, and in 2002, they released Medal of Honor Allied Assault, one of the most influential World War II shooter games of all time. Not only did Allied Assault successfully deliver a vivid recreation of the D-Day sequence featured in Saving Private Ryan, but the various game mechanics like movement, combat, and the design of the mission structures would directly inspire the design of the Call of Duty series. After the success of Allied Assault, 20-some developers left 2015 Inc. to form their own studio called Infinity Ward, and began development on a new project that they called the Medal of Honor Killer. To differentiate itself from their past work, Infinity Ward wanted this new IP to feel even more authentic, with a more fragile lead character that would need to rely on the support of his allies to complete objectives. To help fund the project, Activision agreed to publish the title, and acquired 30% of the studio as a result. After a full year of development, Call of Duty hit store shelves, exclusively for the PC platform. and, just like Allied Assault before it, would push the oversaturated FPS market into a more grounded, cinematic direction. The original Call of Duty is split into 3 separate single-player campaigns: the Americans, British, and the Soviets. The American campaign puts players in the boots of Private Martin, a paratrooper that is dropped behind enemy lines the night before the D-Day landings. After linking up with the squad, Martin and the rest of the Allied forces then proceed to rid various French towns and valleys of the Nazi threat, destroying tanks, heavy guns, and the occasional German counteroffensive. The game's campaign then shifts to a new set of characters. The British campaign feels a bit more like classic Medal of Honor, with a heavy focus on infiltrating enemy positions, sabotaging equipment, and acquiring intel. The final campaign takes place on the Eastern Front, as players participate in the Battle of Stalingrad as a Soviet soldier named Corporal Voronin. These battles are arguably some of the most intense sequences in the game, as players will need to push the Nazis out of Russia and ultimately capture the Reichstag in Berlin. The campaigns in the original game are based heavily on the actual events during World War II, while also taking heavy inspiration from the likes of Band of Brothers, A Bridge Too Far, and Enemy at the Gates. Call of Duty frequently imitates classic action and war films, giving players the opportunity to experience these harrowing events firsthand. This idea of being able to experience epic battle sequences is at the heart of what makes Call of Duty so entertaining, and the game's large level designs and open-ended approach to combat give players the opportunity to experiment, adding a significant amount of replay value to the campaigns. Missions typically task players with neutralizing enemy positions and sabotaging key objectives like field guns and radio equipment. In some missions, players need to hold their ground against waves of hostile reinforcements, greatly testing endurance and the player's ability to utilize available weapons and equipment. There's a lot of mission variety in Call of Duty, and the drastic change in environments between the 3 campaigns helps to keep the experience fresh all throughout. The gameplay is built around the same first-person shooter mechanics incorporated into Allied Assault, with simple movement controls and abilities like running, jumping, crouching, and going prone. Players can use several iconic World War II weapons, including the M1 Garand, Thompson submachine gun, MP40, and Kar 98, but can only carry 2 weapons at any one time, requiring players to swap their weapons off of fallen soldiers. Players can either shoot from the hip or aim down the sights to improve accuracy. Unlike the fast-paced shooters released around the same time, Call of Duty requires players to utilize cover in the environment to avoid incoming fire. If the player is hit, they'll lose a portion of their health, which is represented by a bar in the bottom left corner of the screen, and can only replenish it by walking over various health items in the environment. Enemies offer a decent challenge, intelligently taking cover, flanking allied positions, and laying down suppressive fire with powerful MG42 machine guns. Players need to carefully peek around corners and flank hostile positions to best their enemy, and can be easily overwhelmed if they stray too far from their allied teammates. To help make battles feel more epic and enduring, Allied soldiers that are killed on the front line will respawn under a different name and reinforce the front line, preventing enemy AI from ever completely dominating an attacking force. This technique is sometimes used for enemies as well, giving players the illusion of a long-lasting battle, and will only ever stop after players complete certain objectives. And then, of course, there's the multiplayer. The multiplayer of the original Call of Duty is incredibly simple by today's standards. Players simply choose between the Allied or Axis team, select between a few preset loadouts of weapons associated with that particular team, and then proceed to shoot at each other in maps built using assets from the single player. Maps were designed to be open-ended, with several different back alleys, hedgerows, and elevated windows to get the jump on the opposition, but are still a small enough size to maintain a consistent flow of combat between players. After being killed by another player, the victim is then given the option to view a kill cam, which shows a replay of the killer's angle and execution. Call of Duty's multiplayer allowed for some simple, straightforward brawls across 16 different maps, but the initial intention was to have the community expand on the experience. Infinity Ward designed the multiplayer to be modern.
Your wife is a painter too? Wow.
To expand on the experience. This open-ended
nice.
helped to establish a strong online community, one that surprisingly is still active today. Visually, the original Call of Duty set the bar high for first-person shooters. Environments are highly detailed with various burning vehicles and piles of debris, along with some impressive explosions and smoke effects.
I might be taking a break in a minute.
The aspect of Call of Duty is its artificial intelligence. Massive, large-scale battles are brought to life thanks to the way soldiers take cover and suppress each other with automatic gunfire. When combined with the player's actions and various scripted events, players really feel like they're part of a major battle, as opposed to the cliché one-man army. It's an effective illusion that, for the most part, still plays a major role in Call of Duty campaigns today. The original Call of Duty was met with overwhelmingly positive critical reception. It won
With
several
acrylics?
awards and was praised as 2003's best computer game. Reviewers praised the game for its intense action,
That's what's
excellent
up.
sound design, and realistic art direction. The Call of Duty series had taken off at a running start and would only continue to grow in popularity from there on out. After seeing the exciting potential of Infinity Ward's new franchise, Activision immediately reached out to other studios to expand on the property. First, Activision acquired a studio called Grey Matter Interactive.
Grey
the
Matter.
team responsible for the popular Return to Castle Wolfenstein. Since their Wolfenstein game ran on a similar modified Quake 3 engine as Call of Duty, Activision tasked the studio with creating an expansion for the hugely popular World War II
If you look at my my info bar at the bottom, my Instagram and Facebook is on there.
offering players even more intense, action-packed war scenarios, along with some new gameplay mechanics and a refined multiplayer experience. United Offensive, again, offers 3 separate campaigns from different soldiers' perspectives. The American campaign takes place during the Battle of the Bulge, throwing players into the foxholes of one of the most brutal battles of the war.
The Battle of the
British
Bulge.
campaign gives players control of Sergeant James Doyle, a B-17 bomber gunner who is shot down over the Netherlands. He is rescued by the Dutch resistance and assists with the sabotage of Nazi fortifications. Doyle, now an SAS operative, is sent to Sicily to destroy several cliff-mounted cannons, similar to those in the 1961 film The Guns of Navarone. The game wraps up with the Russian campaign as players are dropped into the Battle of Kursk as Private Yuri Petrenko, once again showcasing massive, large-scale battles with plenty
You
of
got
tanks
3.5 hours in here? Well, I didn't
United
paint the
Offensive's
whole time,
gameplay
but
was also expanded upon greatly.
we probably fucked off for about an hour and painted for 2 hours. But that hand is starting to come together. It's coming together. You gotta work on those rings. After I finish, well, I don't know. I want to work on this bit of the finger a little bit more in this area. Then bring the side of the palm down and into the wrist. But it's coming together. Slow going. Slow going. Fetish paintings. I was gonna do some foot fetish paintings. Just gotta find me a couple of foot models. The majority of the canvas is still just the underpainting. I'm just adding the second layer of paint to the skin, and this arm is the last portion, so you can see how it looks really different here than everything else. Is a little bit more natural and realistic looking. So just currently working on this second layer of paint, trying to cover it, get this hand and wrist done, and so we can pull out those details. And then I think after I do the skin tone the second time, I'll start back at the top and start adding more details to her headdress and her hair and all of her little decorative ornaments, her earring. And then I'll work on the dress and put a dress down. Well, not put a dress down, but and then do the roses and her bracelets. Then I'll start on the third layer, which is probably just highlights, mostly where I need some bright whites at, or little touch-ups here and there. And then at the very end, I'll just paint the background, put another thin coat of black on there just to make sure it's covered nice and solid. Yeah, and this is actually the second time I've painted this painting. I did it once before on a really big canvas, and a client asked me if I could make a smaller one for him so it can be more in his budget, because the original one is pretty expensive because it's so big. So yeah, chilling in the studio. I think I'm gonna take a break out here for a minute. And it's Saturday, it's raining. Oh, I might go test drive some cars. But it's early though. I might go do that like 12 o'clock or 1 o'clock or something. Hoshi. Thanks, bro. Yeah, this is the studio. Got a lot of people reading books. Alright, I'm about to go, I feel asleep. I feel like I can take a nap, or go, not even a nap, but just go back to sleep. I'll probably go play some video games for a minute. But I do want to, I don't know, I've been looking to get a newer vehicle. Still a used vehicle, but something newer than what I got. So I might go to this car lot today and see what the fuck they got. If I can find me a Chevy Traverse for about $8,000 or $9,000, or that's all I got to spend, yo. I ain't got but like $9,000, yo. I ain't gonna lie, not for my car budget. If I'm gonna buy a different vehicle, that's all I'm willing to put into. That's all I'm with my homeboy talking about. You might as well just put a couple extra, man, and get yourself for like 12 or 13. I could, but nah, I ain't even going up to 10,000. I really want to find something for 7,000, cause I'm a used car guy. Fuck that. Just get me a used car with some decent miles on it. Oh yeah, this is a commission. This isn't for me. That's a commission that I'm working on, and this is another commission I'm working on right now. It's already sold, and I just finished another commission recently. I probably did like 6 or 7 commissions this year already. Yeah. So I sell a lot of my art, you know. But, well, people request these, but as far as my own art, I don't sell a lot of my own stuff. I think the last time somebody bought one of my paintings, oh no, somebody's buying a painting from me. Well, damn, I'm about to lie all over again. So a couple months ago, somebody bought a painting from me, one of my own paintings. And then right now, somebody is currently making payments towards one of my own original paintings. You know, but most of the other stuff that I sell, like I sell more commissions than I do my own art, because my own art is really expensive. It costs a good bit to get like an original piece from me. But like if you have a picture that's already, you know, it's way easier for me to just to have you give me a picture and I paint that for you, so I can do that kind of cheap. So I sell more commissions than my own artwork, and then a lot of the time my own artwork is on larger canvases, so like these prices are not fucking cheap for my big canvases. So I'll sell one every once in a while, but I don't sell them that often, not as much as I do commission work. Alright guys, I'm gonna go downstairs and get some video game time in. I really need to do some chores. I need to wash dishes and like fold up laundry and probably vacuum. But I ain't in the mood, so I'm gonna just procrastinate and play video games. Catch you guys downstairs. Peace. Why, thank you. Thank you. If you Google my real name, I don't know, if you go to my Instagram or whatever, it has my real name on there. My name is just Travis Prince. I don't try to hide it. I'm an artist. I'm a public figure, so that is my real name, Travis Prince. So if you Google Travis Prince and then put artist behind it, like all of my other stuff will pop up. I do a TV show, like a real TV show, like at a TV studio. It's hard. It's like, it's not this. It's like a real show. And a bunch of other stuff, yo. I have some radio interviews and other TV interviews, but like you can Google me if you want to check out some more stuff or read some stuff about me or some articles or whatever. But appreciate you enjoying the art, yo. That's what we do it for, you know. Inspiration, motivation for everybody, especially from one artist to another. So hopefully I can check out some of your wife's art if she is on social media sharing her stuff. But yeah, I'm gonna get out the studio and I'm gonna go downstairs and play some video games. Peace.